So I want to hear about some of your time in Belize. It seemed like you got into a bit of trouble down there with the government of Belize, and you had to end up leaving the country under ridiculous circumstances. And I understand they ended up auctioning off a lot of your property, and then I read that your home there even was burned down under what they call suspicious circumstances.
What's the truth that people don't know behind that?
Oh, it's too fucking long. I mean, he said, I didn't get in much trouble. I mean, they tried to kill me. They had the army, the police after me. They were shooting at me in the jungle. I mean, I was in hiding for 2 months, escaped into Guatemala. Got arrested 3 days later in Guatemala. And police demanded that I be returned so they could torture and kill me. And just a beautiful thing. Third world countries, folks. The Attorney General for Guatemala, a gentleman named Telesforo Guerra, the Attorney General. I hired him for $100,000 and said, I just want to go back to America. Can you make that happen? He goes, yeah. And that was it. So no, I went back to America.
Why did the authorities in Belize think? Why did the authorities in Belize think you killed somebody?
Okay, so now you need to go back a year. Okay, first of all, I was in San Pedro, the American enclave on the tourist island of San Pedro, one of the most beautiful fucking places on this planet, by the way, if it weren't for the fact that people were there. In any case, I got bored. After 3 years, I said, I'm going into the jungle, the interior of Belize. I went into Orange Walk district, the largest district of Belize, 18,000 people, all of them black. Bought a huge piece of property, built a serious fucking compound for millions of dollars, staffed it with very dangerous people, all of them heavily armed. And basically called attention to myself, which is one of the stupidest things I've ever done. You get stupid as you get older. In any case, I'd been there for a year and a half, and the local political authority in the largest district in Belize came to me and said, Mr. McAfee, our election's coming up in 5 months. If you would donate $2 million to our party, here's what we would do. We would give you 1 million acres along the river. Well, that could eventually be worth billions, but I probably wouldn't live that long. Tax breaks, all the pussy you could ever goddamn imagine. I idiotically said no. Now, what idiot says no when the person coming is a representative of the goddamn government and they have 17,000 soldiers with AR-15s, tanks, and fucking helicopters? No. Who does that? Well, I do. I'm stupid. I said no. I should have said 2 million. Let me give you 4 or 10. No, I said no. Well, 1 week later, 47 armed soldiers from the gang suppression unit, which reported directly to the prime minister. It's the equivalent of the Navy SEALs in America. Stormed my property, arrested me, shot my dog in front of my eyes, saying, Mr. McAfee, if you do not think we're serious, boom! The dog's head exploded in front of me.
My goodness.
It sucks.
That's sad.
I just said, I see you're serious. What is your name, my friend? Anyway, so now, it's been a terrible day. I was tortured. They destroyed my lab where I was doing antibiotic research. It cost me $500,000 in damages, and then just left.
My goodness. What kind of torture were they putting you through?
Anyway, so the next day, the same gentleman who asked for the $2 million came back and said, "Oh, Mr. McAfee, good. We are so sorry. We made a mistake. We had bad information. Please forgive us." And Mr. McAfee, by the way, have you reconsidered your donation? Well, I was pissed off by then because they shot my dog. I don't give a shit about the destruction of property. They killed my dog. I had 17. Yes, but they killed my favorite dog. Anyway, so, Mr. McAfee, we're terribly sorry. We made a mistake. However, Mr. McAfee, have you reconsidered your donation? I said, well, very simply, very politely, by the way. Property, or I will shoot you in the head right now. That was another mistake. I should have said, I have indeed. Now that you've shown me the truth, the light of the proper way.
You're a bit of a slow learner here.
You know what? It's my fucking emotions. No, and I meant it. I had a 357 Magnum in his shoulder muzzle, which I pulled. I didn't point it at him. I had it in my hand, pointing to the ground. I said, get off my property, never return, else I will kill you. Do you understand me? Because I knew what they had done. They killed my fucking dog. I mean, forget the torture, forget the $500,000, forget everything. No, they killed my goddamn dog. No, I'm sorry, they don't pass muster here. Get off my property, else I will kill you. Well, that started a war with the Belizean government, which lasted for 7 months, up until the time they couldn't collect me legally. Why? Fuck me, I had the most serious security. Listen, if the Belizean army had tried to collect me illegally, 100 of them would have died, and of course we would have all died as too. But no, we're not going to do that shit. Because I moved back to San Pedro, the American fucking enclave. 94% of all Belizean income comes from Americans and the tourists. They don't fuck with you, San Pedro. However, they were so goddamn clever. One night, the government poisoned 9 of my 16 remaining dogs. And the next night, killed my next door neighbor after planting rumors that he had killed my dogs. I knew better. He was a, hang on a second. Janice? Hang on. Janice!
Hey, Taylor, maybe take a second to fix your camera again.
Okay. I don't know why it's doing this. Sorry.
No, what can you do? We don't. For any viewers, John wanted to use Skype, so this is new to us. Well, old to us, but whatever.
I'm talking to you.
Oh, I thought you were finished.
No, I haven't finished. Probably they've already left by now. It's been very boring so far.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about the interruption.
I don't know if they heard that. Probably not. All right, so now.
Okay. Sorry about the interruption, everyone.
No problem.
It's all
You're
good,
fine,
Janice.
I don't know who this woman is. I just we'll figure it out later. So anyway, I knew it was not my neighbor who poisoned my dogs. God damn it, he had dogs. You tell me, people, what dog owner is going to kill somebody else's dogs?
Mm-hmm.
Poison them? I mean, I woke up at 2 a.m. and they were lying in the sand on the beach, vomiting their intestines out of the mouth, or shitting their intestines out the grass. I had to kill them all.
Wow.
You think that was not a difficult task? Then you've never had a dog before. Can you imagine 9 that you loved, you raised from puppies? 5 years earlier, you fed them, you cared for them. When they bit into a porcupine, you helped pull out the fucking spines.
Mm-hmm.
You cradled them when they were sick. You loved them. And they're out there in the sand vomiting their intestines. I don't know, so I shot them all. I knew it was not my fucking neighbor. He loved dogs, people. They forgot this. I'm going, no. The next night, that neighbor was murdered. Shot in the back of the head, gangster style. If I wanted to do harm to anyone, I would hope that I had the common fucking sense to wait 6 months or a year before taking it. What idiot. And you can't say, well, what do they call that? The anger of the moment. No, it was 24 hours later. Plenty of time to think. Right? It was the Belizean government. 18 hours later, they came for me. I knew they were coming. I hid in an attic in my estate on San Pedro, which was designed specifically for such emergencies. This has been my life for 55 years. So, of course, I have an escape plan. So I hid in the attic 22 hours. Laying motionless. I pissed my pants because I was afraid to move, to make a noise. Police were searching right below me for me. Special room, impossible to detect. After 20-some hours, I came down. The police were gone. Scurried across the sand, hid under another one of my buildings in the sand, which had... under a huge piece of plywood, had a small, shallow grave dug in the sand, which I put myself in with the plywood. The police actually came by 2 hours later, looking again with flashlights and so on. They left at about 4 a.m., at which case I left, walked 100 yards up the beach to a neighbor who was a seasonal resident of San Pedro and had given me the keys to their house so that my caretaker could maintain it. And hid in their back garage with a lock that I had the key to. And called Samantha Negas, one of the 7 women I was living with at that time. And I called her because I knew that she had set this whole thing up, which she had, which she admitted to later. And I said, are you going to help me now, Sam? She was crying. I said, yes. So I said, then you call this taxi driver, which I had arranged a year before and paid the man a fortune just in case he gets a call with this code word. She flew over from Orange Walk to San Pedro and went from the airport to the taxi. The taxi came up. This is the craziest thing ever. Came up that dirt back road, 14 miles from San Pedro town to where I lived. I jumped in the taxi. I hid on the back floor. Samantha had a flowing dress, covered me with it. 3 minutes later, as we're heading south on that road, the police, 2 vans, maybe 25 officers, were heading up to my place to continue their search. They stopped us. But Samantha did what Samantha always does, a very sexy, alluring, lusty lady.
Did she convince them not to pursue a little sexual favor?
No, didn't have to do anything. She merely, as she saw them coming, she opened her blouse so that her nipples were not quite peeking out. Everything else was. And so no one, and this van stopped us. The police are here. I'm looking up to the left of Sam's left leg, and I can see the goddamn police officer looking. And I'm looking down. He's looking at Sam. They have a brief conversation, and we move on. And it's a long story. You don't want to hear this shit, plus we're over time. Maybe another day. All right.
Jeez. So,
These stories so far are mild compared to my dick, balls, and gang rape and beheading stories.
Yes, and I got all that written down. So all that written down to address. So like you mentioned it and we moved past it real quickly, but I was curious. So you said, and it was on one of your videos, what do you do if some powerful guy, the Hitler, portrait guy, green lights you to get your shit pushed in and beat the fuck up? If that gets greenlit, is there any way to go to that guy and be like, hey, I'm so sorry, let me give you some Snickers? Or is it like, no, once that's okayed, you're fucked. He can't go back on it or he'll look weak or complacent. Like, how's that pan out?
Prison rape is so common, there's a rape class now that you have to attend under PREA, Prison Rape Elimination Act.
Yep.
It's mandatory.
a rape class. Did you learn anything? Are you better at raping now than before?
Prisoners were joking on the way to the rape class.
I went to the rape class myself. It's
So you watch a video, and there's some guys in the day room, some predators. The young prisoners coming in are hungry. If they take food, they're in debt. And once they got you in debt, they got you. They say, look, you got to pay this debt or else we're going to kill you. Well, I got no money. Well, you're going to go in that cell over there, do whatever he says, and that will pay your debt off. And if you are weak-minded enough to do that, there's no turning back. That's called getting turned out, becoming a prison punk. They rent you out as a prison prostitute, and you're ruined. At the lowest level in the prison is punks, snitches, and chomos. So the conclusion of the rape class was to stop rape, you have to report it. If you report anything, you're a snitch. So after we went to the rape class, a young mentally ill prisoner was gang raped, and nobody reported a single thing.
Oh no! Yeah. Like he gets raped in the rape class
after the class,
right after, yeah. Oh,
so that was just like an FU to the guards. Now the story of Xena, who was a transgender prisoner, 6.5 foot, charismatic transgender prisoner. She seemed happy living with her boyfriend when I met her in prison. He was protecting her, but decades before, when she first came in, she was big, weightlifting, clicked up with the Aryan Brotherhood gang as a debt collector. It's blood in, blood out. These gangs use people up and they brutalize them. So I asked Xena what happened. She said the first time was a gang rape. They beat me until I was unconscious, raped me while I was unconscious, and shoved things inside my body. I said, well, what did they shove inside your body? A broomstick. I said, well, how did you know they were raping you if you were unconscious? She said, when I went to the toilet afterwards, I could tell by what came out. I said, well, what did you do after being raped? I sat in my cell waiting for the scars to go. I got moved to another yard, but the same thing happened. They beat me up, raped me, used me as a sex toy, a prostitute, a punk. There's no recourse, no one to talk to. You can't go to the guards. They'll throw you in a dungeon for months or years and say it's for your own protection. You can do absolutely nothing other than kill the perpetrators. The victim is labeled a rat, a punk, and considered less than human. I said, did you think about killing the people who did this? Yes, I did. I also thought about killing myself, and I still do sometimes. And then Xena started crying. She couldn't answer any more questions. But she came back because we were writing a blog to raise awareness of prison rape. And when she came back, I said, does this mostly happen to youngsters? Yes, it does. But it can happen to anyone. Big, bad dudes, skinny, ugly. People who aren't street smart, who don't understand the mentality of ghetto life, they get picked on the most. I said, well, how did you stop it? I took the abuse for as long as I could and I started fighting. I won most of the fights. When I stood up and told them I didn't care about living or dying, it stopped. You've got to be ruthless. Now, that is understatement. Xena hadn't told me the truth as to how she stopped this gang raping business because she didn't want to risk getting in trouble for what she'd done. Xena was studying anatomy, and the next 2 times the gang members came to rape Xena, the first member of the gang to put his hand on Xena plucked his eyeball out.
Holy shit.
So it was dangling from the optic nerve. And that's what I thought when I first heard that story. Holy shit, is that even possible? So I had a workout partner called Iron Man in prison, and he told me to join a dojo. He told me to join a dojo when I got out. So I did karate for almost 10 years. And they teach us in karate, It's called bird beak strike. You just go bam into the eyeball like that, and it comes out on the optic nerve. Now, Xena did that twice, 2 separate occasions.
That's what I'm laughing at, by the way.
They came back to rape her again, and she did it again. So
what's so funny is that she plucked an eye out, and they still came back.
Yeah. So they classified her as extremely dangerous because that eyeball, when you put it back in, it just doesn't go back in snugly and behave normally. The fluid coating the brain can leak through the socket, and you can die. You can be blinded. You know, it can really mess your visual apparatus up.
I'm
let's
confused.
say.
So Xena was a woman, and men were raping her. Why were they together? I missed something.
She's
Okay, so Xena was a trans prisoner, 6.5 foot.
Oh,
When she first came in, decades before she'd met me, she was big and weightlifting, and she was a debt collector for the Aryan Brotherhood. Now, when I met her, she was tall, skinny. She was making melting plastic and making sex toys. She had her own beaded G-string. And
she's cool.
What she did was they tried to get estrogen smuggled in, and they tried to stop the other chemicals. So Xena wakes up one morning, grabs a felt tip pen, draws lines on her scrotum, drinks a cup of coffee, and without any painkiller at all, she's got the razor blade and she cuts the scrotum open. Now, the testicles are on branches called the vas deferens. So she goes into one side of the scrotum, cuts through the spermatic cord and the gristle, and she manages to cut one side off. Now, the other side must have known what was about to happen because it hid, it retracted. So now she's got her hand in her scrotum, up in her gut, searching for this other testicle.
This is horrible.
I love this.
This red hot pain is hitting her now from cutting the first one off. Where she's got it tied off to stop the blood comes undone, and the blood starts spraying across the cell. She's now bleeding to death and losing consciousness, but she believes she's got to get this other one off. It's a one-shot deal. She said she could feel squishy things like organs while she's scrambling around to find this thing. But in the end, she didn't find it. And the prison was informed. Somebody saw this, and they managed to get a helicopter to the prison just in time to get to hospital to save her life. Now, Xena was put on suicide watch for a year. And when she got off suicide watch, she cut the other testicle off.
Jesus Christ. So just when that testicle thought it was safe to slink back down into the sack. Slice!
This is the most hardcore individual I've ever heard of. It's so comical to me that she plucked out a rapist's eyeball with her bare hand. And then the next week or month or whatever, some time period passed, and that same group of rapists got together and said, you know what we should do? We should go rape the eyeball plucking chick. We should go rape. Wait. Why are they calling the eyeball? Well, they point at Dan, and he's got a fucking eye patch on. He's like, I don't know, guys. That seems like a good idea. I'm not going in first. I'll say that for damn
Only
sure.
once. Shame on you.
The second guy is like, oh, God, I deserve this. I knew what was coming. I saw her sharpening her nails. I saw her practice on round body parts with her own nuts.
Let me tell you what happened next then. So, all right. So, rape attempt 1, eyeball comes out. Rape attempt 2, eyeball comes out.
Is she big and strong during the eye plucking, or is she the later?
Yeah, she was collecting debts for the Aryan Brotherhood.
At that
6.5
point,
foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big.
So eyeball comes out 2 separate occasions. Eyeball comes out. They classify Xena as extremely dangerous, and they move on to some of her friends. Now, one friend is gang raped. They shove a light bulb in his backside, and they make bets on who could smash it first. And that prisoner committed suicide afterwards. Another one is gang raped. They get a shovel from the work crew. They hold him down, cut his head off. And when his head is finally off, they put it on display in a part of the prison to show the gangs that they're the most violent and ruthless out of all the gangs.
And which gang did that one?
Aryan Brotherhood.
Okay.
Right?
That is really intense.
that escalate like the first two examples were just horrific, but then it escalated so far when we got to a beheading that it's just like, where do you go from here?
A lot of people don't know, I'm sure, of our listeners, your whole story, but it started a few years ago where you trained your pug to do the Hitler salute as a joke. Can you walk us? I imagine there's hours you can go into, but can you give us a version of that?
I'll try and give like the short postage stamp version, but it's like my girlfriend. It was my girlfriend's pug. She's my wife now, but my girlfriend at the time was always going on about how cute he was.
Take as much time as you need. Sorry to interject. If you want to lay out as much as you want, it's a long show and it's a funny story.
Oh no, that's cool. And well, basically, she would even like shove the pug in my face, going, "Look at his little face. Look how cute he is." And I'm like, "Fuck off!" Like with the fucking dog and everything. And one day I was like giving him a treat. And he lifted his paw because he gives you a paw whenever he does it. And I went, that kind of looks like a little salute. And then a light bulb appeared above my head, and I just thought, do you know it'd be really fucking funny? Man, so yeah, the little cute, lovely animal, and then 6 million. You know, it's like that, and I thought that's hilarious. That'll upset her to no end. But the problem is he didn't do it all the time. He wasn't fully properly trained. There was sometimes he did it, sometimes he didn't do it, and I didn't want to take the dog in front of my girlfriend and then try and get him to do it, and he doesn't do it, and it's like days of work just completely ruined, right? So I decided to film all the times he actually did do it, and then I made it into a video. I uploaded it on YouTube with like no intention of it going anywhere. I even gave it like a stupid title. I only had 8 subscribers. They're all friends of mine. They were all people I knew. So I thought, there's no chance anyone's going to find this. But then ended up, the plan was me and my girlfriend would like have little YouTube nights. We would put YouTube on the TV in the living room, and then we would watch videos, and I was going to totally blindside her by going, I know this really funny video, just you sit there. I'll put it on, and then I was going to get my phone out and like film a reaction. But before we even get a chance to do that, I went to FanFest in Iceland, which is like EVE Online, the online space spreadsheets game. I was very, very into that game back then. So I went to Iceland, and while I was on the plane going to Iceland, someone found the video somehow, still don't know how, and then they posted it to Reddit, and it made it to the front page of Reddit. Right? I didn't know. So I've landed in a foreign country, so my phone is not got signal. I'm not getting texts or anything, no notifications. I'm going around Reykjavik. I'm meeting up with my friends over there. We went to the pub. I got absolutely drunk like that, and then I like stumbled back to my hotel room, not realizing that back home my fucking life is being burned down. I'm running around trying to speak Icelandic and shit, man. Like not realizing that like hundreds of reporters are calling like my grandmother and shit like that, man. Right? While I'm running around going hurdy-gurdy, running around fucking Iceland, right? But then I get back to the hotel room. I pass out for a few hours. I wake up feeling like shit. I've like go to check my phone, and I'm like, oh fuck! Oh wait, the hotel Wi-Fi connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, and my phone just blew the fuck up, man. It's like you have like shit tons of YouTube messages. You have 38 voicemails and like all that shit, man, right? And then and, like while I was just scrolling through them, I only scrolled through them for like 10 seconds, and then my girlfriend called me, and I says, "What the fuck's going on? What's happened?" And then she said, "Why are there reporters at the door?" And I just went, I don't fucking know. Is it the video? And then, I found out that the video went viral. And
oh, no. This poor dog ruined your life.
Fuck him. Yeah, fuck him, man. He get nothing.
I hope you just beat the shit out of him every day after this.
I do. It's hard not to. There's a reason his face looks like that, you know.
That's not a
bug. But ended up like... I just had fun in Iceland. I just thought, fuck it, it's done now. While I was actually, Hjalmar Vygar is like the CEO of he stepped down, but he was the CEO of CCP Games, and it was in the middle of his like keynote speech, the big speech for like EVE Online FanFest, and I basically get an email from my job going, yeah, you're fucking fired. So I was like, so like he's giving his big speech, and I'm turning around to all my friends going, I just got fired. Not man, and I'm letting them all like read the email. So I just thought, fuck it. kept partying in Iceland, and they're all making jokes, going, "They're going to arrest you when you go back home," and I'm like, no, they won't. Because it was one of those, like, if only you knew how bad things really were. But I ended up came home, got off the plane, came home to like reporters hanging around outside my house. They're taking pictures of me and trying to talk to me as I'm going into the house. I then ended up speaking to the local youths, shall we say, and told them that if they see any journalists in the street to ask them very nicely to leave.
Did you hire thugs to run off the reporters?
No, I don't hire them. It's just it's basically every
they work for free.
Yes, they do. In Scotland,
the love of the game.
Each area, each housing estate or project or whatever you want to call it in America has its own street gang known as the Young Team, right? And basically, they have this whole thing where they don't like you if you're not from there. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah,
I'm familiar with that.
They're not from here. So ask them nicely to leave. And so for a few days there was no reporters, no journalists, no nothing, right? But then ended up we get a knock at the door, and I've just had 3 bongs. Yeah. When we get this knock at the door, and then I open it, and it's the CID, like a criminal investigation department.
Oh, you were looking the best that day.
And those were the 2 people that came to the door. Yeah, that's me. That's me being arrested. I look like a fucking hobo, man. And that was the thing that was in the papers. It's like no one even knows the crime, but everyone's looking at that picture just going, he deserves it. He deserves it. Fucking look at him.
You look like that's the first time you've seen light in your day. Yeah. You look like a newborn kitten.
Well, I was recently unemployed, but
like they're taking you out of like a prisoner of war camp. What had you been up to in the weeks prior to this? Because you look good today.
Nothing. I got fired. I got fired. I was sitting in the house smoking weed and doing nothing.
All right, so, I can get on board with that.
Yeah, hence the unkempt beard and fucking just shit hair and everything. And also I'm high as fuck. That's why my eyes look like tiny vaginas. It's quite bad. But ended up there was no reporters in the street. But as you can see from that picture, suddenly there was reporters in the street. Yeah. And my neighbours told me that they arrived with the cops.
Yeah, of course.
They came like with the police. Now
they knew about your gang.
yeah, that was it. That was it. But the thing is, whenever the police communicate with the press, they're not allowed to tell the press shit like that. Oh, this is the date and time we're going to arrest this guy.
Someone slipped them $100.
Yeah. No, well, yeah. What happened was basically the cops broke the law. They're supposed to have a record of every communication they make with journalists. There's no records. Like, my lawyer tried to get it, and they were like, no such thing exists. And it's like, oh, well, guess the journalists are fucking psychic then, But so, yeah. And I got arrested, and because of the nature of the crime, so it was a hate crime, I got ridiculous. Sometimes you get taken down to the station, they book you and go, all right, fuck off. You'll get your court date in the mail. Right, but I got kept in because mine was classed as a very serious offence. So I'm sitting in cell, and I'm just like, all right, okay, I guess I'm having a fucking sleepover in jail tonight. And then, like, in the middle of the night, I can hear just screaming coming down the hall, just screaming, right? And then I look out through the little porthole, and basically the cops have got this guy in like the Superman carry, how where they've got him in a full body harness and they're just carrying him like a big plank of wood down the hall. They throw him in the room, and I can hear them like kneeling on his back to undo the restraints, and then they just back out the room and slam the door. And this guy's screaming the fucking place down, punching walls, kicking the door. This is at like 3-4 in the morning when I'm trying to sleep. And I'm sitting punching the wall and shouting back, going, shut the fuck up, like screaming at him. And he's shouting shit out, going, I've ruined my life, and everything. And then,
oh, no.
I know.
Me too! Let's sleep on it!
That was interesting. But ended up, like, the next morning, we're getting, like, taken out to go to the courthouse, so we're all getting, like, shackled up and everything to get loaded onto the vans. And the porter, who's the guy that looks after the prisoners, he was very nice. He was a nice guy. And I said to him, going, who was that absolute roaster that you put into the cell next to me last night, man? He kept me awake all night. And the guy just goes, oh, yeah, he murdered his friend.
Oh. Wait, what did he do to his friend?
Murdered his friend.
Murdered. Yeah, killed him. And I was like, okay, I understand why he's upset, but...
Yeah,
man...
All right, he did ruin his own life, but what about his friend's life? Just pretty much over.
Well, he's a murderer. They're
more or
notoriously
less.
selfish.
Never mind that. What about my sleep? Fuck them. I couldn't sleep.
That is
The
core
friend's
issue
gone.
here.
You're never getting that sleep back, though.
Exactly.
I mean, so
Facts.
what was the job that fired you instantly upon learning that you'd taught your dog a salute?
It was two. One wasn't really a firing. Like one of them was just a call center. Like it was like repairing. See how the little PDAs use whenever you make a card transaction. It was like repairing them. So you had people calling you that couldn't speak English, and you were having to guide them through a complicated process of like how to reset their PIN machine and everything. So that was a fucking nightmare. And the other one was security, and that wasn't so much a firing. I just never got shifts. I think they just kind of went, if we ignore them, he'll go away.
Yep.
And everyone was kind of like, but I work for you.
Yeah, you do. And as soon as we can pull you in.
Just, I think I said, am I not getting any shifts this week? And I never got a text back. And I was kind of like, and it's not like a security boss to turn down someone that wants to do shifts. So I kind of just went, all right, okay, that's that then. But like, ended up as I was getting like taken out the cell, I'm getting handcuffed up and everything. As I'm getting loaded into the van's got like lots of little pods in it for like each prisoner. As I'm walking by one of the windows, I see a friend of mine like that. But he's one of these friends where you only get to ever hang out with him for about 2 or 3 months at a time. Because then he's back in for like a while. So ended up, I was like, "Oh fuck, how you doing? Oh, fancy meeting you here." Like type of thing. And we were sitting there, we're like shouting through the little boxes at each other, like to try and talk to each other. And he sort of says, "Allegedly, I opened someone's face up with a meat cleaver." He basically slashed someone down the face, which is a very common thing in Scotland, extremely common. But yeah,
nice.
It's called a chib. That's why see that Scottish actor in like Sons of Anarchy. That's he had a Glasgow smile.
That was his name. That's what they call him. They call him Chibs.
Chibs, because he had 2 chibs. That's what it comes from.
Common thing
thank you so much for that.
What does chibs mean?
Chibs are slashed to slash someone's face.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And what he got was called the Glasgow grin because they cut a smile into his face.
I didn't like that. Or does he have it for real?
Yeah, it's real. Yeah.
Well, the guy who did it, I didn't realize it was real when I watched that show or saw him in other things, and I'm like, God, I wish they would make that symmetrical. Like, because one of them is lower. It's kind of a Glasgow smirk.
Well, it's because he was struggling because they were cutting his face up. It's not like he was being mugged for DJ equipment. That was why they were trying to steal his DJ equipment from him.
No, man, say what you
they're
want
not going to
about
go hold still, man. You want it even.
Yeah, it makes him look very hardcore.
Does it though?
Yeah, he's got a feet. That's clearly not like something he was born with, like a hair lip. That's a violent chop or a slice.
Well, there's two. Whenever you see someone with a slash on their face, like in Scotland, like some people go, "Oh, you look really tough," but people in the know go, "You're not trustworthy."
Yeah,
you did something. You did something really bad.
What did he do? This guy we just looked at, like it seems like he was being mugged.
Yeah, he was being mugged.
So he's falsely accused of being untrustworthy.
That's true. That is true. But 9 times out of 10, if someone has a slash, it's because they stole drugs or they snitched on someone or something like that. It's basically like a big punishment. It's them marking you, basically saying like untrustworthy.
It's a scarlet letter on your face.
That essentially is what it is.
Well, it's just wrong to give that to people who are trustworthy.
I know, but it's just a thing in Glasgow. It's been a thing in Glasgow for over 100 years. Yeah,
the tradition.
It started with they say like the cutthroat razors they used to carry around in like the 1800s and everything. It started with that.
This is blowing me away, and I'm from the land of gunshots.
Oh no, there's a famous picture on like Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow of like the razor gangs as they're called. There was loads of different ones that you get all the way throughout Glasgow, and the razor was like the weapon of choice because they're easy to hide from the police and everything. You can hide them in the brim of your cap and all that type of stuff. But they blew up around the 60s, 70s, and there's a very famous picture on Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow of a member of a razor gang walking up and trying to slash a police inspector. Like in broad daylight. No, the police hold on, I need to find this picture. The police inspector looks so hardcore. He's got like a cigarillo. There it is. That's the exact picture. He's still got his smoke hanging out his mouth with fucking. And then there's other pictures of him just taking the guy to the ground and everything as well. Yeah, that was the orange walk.
It's a police. What is a police inspector? It sounds like a management position. Is he like?
He's like a detective.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like a detective. Yeah.
So you're in prison. You found out your new neighbor is a murderer.
Yes.
What happens next?
Well, I got taken to court the next day, and then that's when you just get put in like the big communal room with like all the other prisoners and stuff like that. And while we're sitting there chatting, it ends up getting onto the what you in for, like fucking thing, right? And I'm like, I knew it was coming. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Here we go. But one guy got caught with like 200 Valium pills. One guy got caught growing weed in his house. One guy was just like violated his parole conditions, blah, blah, blah. But then it gets to my friend who goes, allegedly, I opened someone's face with a meat cleaver. And then it gets to me. And I just start laughing. And I'm like, well, I made a meme of my girlfriend's pug Nazi saluting for a joke, and like 3 of the guys in there went, "That was you! I thought I knew your face." And I was like, yeah, that was me. But then my friend like leans over and whispers to me, going, "See, when you go in, don't tell people that because you will get battered." Well, man, they were like people, see, because it's not violent and it's something dumb that I'm in for. Like people would just kick the shit out of me. And
that sucks. But then it's not because they're anti-Nazi; it's because they're anti-pussy crimes.
Oh no, I can assure you that some certain parts of Scottish prisons are very pro-Nazi. Yeah,
seems to be a common prison thing.
Yeah, it is
everywhere.
But there was a guy like sitting on the floor, and he looked about like 18, 19 or something like that, and like he's sitting sort of cuddled up. This is obviously a whole new experience for him. I've been arrested before like a bunch of times. It's always just been for fighting. I was outside a bar, I said something or someone said something, we threw punches, the police came, like basic stuff, nothing bad, like split head, bust nose, bust lip, like basic shit like that. Those are the ones where you don't even get charged. They just keep you until you sober up, and then the next morning open the doors and go, right, fuck off. Because in Scotland there is not enough time on earth to prosecute all of the fights. There's just
the drunken fights.
The drunken fights. Yeah, there's not enough time. Basically,
is there any other kind?
No, but the police will even pressure both guys like, don't press charges. The other guy's not pressing charges. They'll even lie and say the other guy's not pressing charges.
Cool people don't press charges.
Yeah.
What's your plan?
They just want you to leave. They just want you to get out. But this guy was sitting there, and we were, and he turned around and says, "See if it's your first offence. Like what happens?" And then all these other seasoned criminals were going, "If it's your first offence, you'll get admonished." Admonished basically means the judge just chews you the fuck out, and he might give you a warning, basically saying, if you appear in front of me again, blah blah blah, and all that. But then no charges, no nothing. It still gets marked on your little record, but you don't have a criminal record. And then that's when someone went, "Oh, well, it depends. What did you do?" And then he turns around and says, "I got caught with a kilo of cocaine." And fucking the whole room just erupted in laughter. And I felt so bad because even I was doing it. The whole room was looking at this kid going, "No, you're fucked. You're absolutely fucked. You're getting at least 5. At least 5. And you just saw the colour just drain from his face as he was cross-legged on the floor, just staring at the ground. And then everyone sort of realised that we've just told this guy his life's over or some shit. And then people start going, "Oh, well, maybe not. If you've got a good lawyer,
You never know, though. Like, guys, maybe a judge, a drunk barrister, who knows?"
I do have a horrific dog put down story.
No thanks.
No, that sounds good for a laugh. Come on.
So my dad, back when he was younger, he used to be sort of a foreman up on a coal job up at a strip mine up in Kentucky. And he had this Doberman that he had bought. He said it was like he put thousands of dollars into, getting it from a breeder, training it professionally, and it was the dumbest dog he ever had. This thing would just like get away from him. It always like just ran out into the woods. He'd have to go find it. Well, one day he brings it up to the top of a strip job where they're up on top of a cliffside. And I think what happened is the cliff started to give way. So everyone started panicking, like, all right, move the trucks off, move the dozers off the side. So Dad's trying to coordinate this. And what had happened whenever he got there is he put the dog in the truck, and the dog managed to he had the windows down. Dog jumps out the window and it just disappeared. He didn't see it. Well, while all these bulldozers are moving, he hears, "Arr!" And what had happened is this dog just laid down in dozer tracks, and as the dozer was coming for it, just didn't move. So Dad, he's like, oh no. So he takes the dog, puts it in his truck, and he was staying in I'm sorry, Kyle. He was staying on site there at the bottom of the hill. So he drives down the bottom of the hill, he gets the dog out, and he lays it on his porch, and he thought the dog was dead. Like, it's quiet laying there. He's like, oh man, this is so sad, but I've got guys up there with equipment. It's a dangerous situation. I got to go back. So he goes back up the hill, handles that for about half an hour. He drives back down afterwards. And what had happened is the dog was not dead. Instead, the dog had used its back end was flat. It used its front paws to drag itself into the road and got hit by a car. And it was still alive. It was still alive. So Dad's like, oh my word, it's broken on both ends. He drags it around to the back of the house, and he gets a gun to put it down. And he looks down at it, and the dog looks up at him with these sad eyes, and Dad starts to cry, and he's like, I can't look. So he turns away and fires and puts a round straight into its heart. And it starts screaming and shouting. So Dad screams back at it like, ah, and unloads the mag into the dog. And every time he tells that story, he's like, yeah, I didn't have a dog for a while after that. I needed time.
You were right. That was awful.
It was hit by a dozer. Then he gets run over by a truck, and then he gets shot
several times.
Oh, wow. He didn't deserve that.
No, he didn't. He did not.
But he's in heaven. He's
he crossed
dancing on the rainbow.
He crossed the rainbow bridge.
But in real life, he's dead.
No, yeah. No, I remember.
Like
what
Willow be.
Like Willow.
Blackness.
In the blackness.
I don't remember what year you did it, but that TED Talk where you made an absolute ass out of a bunch of retards at Drexel University was one of the, it's still a classic. If you guys haven't seen it, listeners, look up Sam Hyde TED Talk. Man, how hard was it for you to get into the TED Talk? Was it difficult? Did you have to come up with a fake background, or was it easier than you guessed?
It was mad easy. I just sent him an email. I said that I was, let me see if I still have the emails from Drexel, TEDx Drexel. Here we go. The organizer's name was Daira Pujara. So let's see. Yeah, I said I was a photographer. I was a war photographer in Somalia, and that there was some group of women in Somalia who were cleaning up trash, and that was who I was documenting, was like the trash ladies of Somalia. He just
such a stupid fake story.
They're like, we got to get you in front of the people.
Yeah, they're not doing a good job. Somalia still looks like shit.
We got to bring attention to the trash ladies of Somalia.
Trash ladies of Somalia, the refuse handlers of Somalia. That's so fucking funny. And they were just like, "That is very interesting. We'd love to have you on to give your speech." And you were like, yeah.
This sounds very interesting. Can we Skype sometime this week to explore possibilities of a speaking engagement at TEDx? Mr. Pujara, my name is Sam Hyde. I'm a videographer / photojournalist. In the past 6 months, I've done 2 projects that are pretty interesting. In California, I did some video work for SpaceX and shot a mini documentary about Elon Musk's quest to put a colony on Mars. I have permission to share my footage, including a video of Elon talking. The other project I worked on was a piece in Mogadishu, the most dangerous city on earth. A courageous group of women is behind a statistical drop in the rates of suicide bombings, murders, and kidnappings. Their secret? Cleaning up the streets, removing trash and scrap. not completely dissimilar to the broken window situation in NYC in the late 80s/early 90s. That's all I said. And he said, yes.
You said yes.
Sorry for rambling there, but yeah, that's
no,
how
that's
I set it up.
No,
yeah.
I love that. No, I love that.
Wow.
So once they said yes, you can come on, were you then like, okay, I have to come up with the whole thing now? I didn't expect them to say yes.
Yeah, I just had my friends. I had my buddy Wyatt, and I can't remember who else was involved. I know, fuck, man, there's this one kid who's so funny and continually has done stuff for me, but he's like super paranoid about being credited, so I never know how to credit him. And he's got like fucking 5 aliases, so I don't know which alias, like fucking Mr. Gizmo. That's him. So I had Wyatt and Mr. Gizmo and myself. We all jumped into a Google Doc and just started writing the most schizophrenic shit possible about the future. And yeah, that's how it went.
When with the beginning of that video where you climb up into the set and then sit down and drink a whole bottle of water and then say, give me 25 seconds it was one of the funniest. I laughed so hard at that to this day, just to get up there to drink water until you're out of breath and then you go, oh, give me about 25 seconds. And then
Just eating. You're just eating the uncomfortable silence right in front of them. And saying, no, you can't have any. I want it all. And they're just like, we didn't want any. Why are you enjoying that so much?
that was brutal.
Everybody pat
man.
yourselves on the back.
Yeah.
And of course, you're dressed as a motherfucking like Roman soldier.
A centurion. Yeah.
Centurion.
Well, that's one of the things that appeals to me most about comedy is just punishing the audience, because most and you can't really do it online, because when you're online, the people that are looking at your stuff are people who've sought you out. So it's like they're like-minded, they're with the program. So it's you can't really abuse them too much. But when you're out in the world with regular people who, you say, if the people in that audience, I can imagine saying something that I feel deeply and like heartfelt and sincere, and being looked at like I'm a fucking like axe murderer or something. Yeah. So why not torture them with like silence and schizophrenia and all these other things? That's what
do you not get uncomfortable at all? Like when you're up on, because I watched your stand up where you go in there. Yeah. There was a whole stand-up where you were wearing like an Arab robe, and you're like, all right, guys, we're going to do a little different stand-up this time. I'm going to read crime stats. And that's all that you did. And like, you just ran the room. And like at home watching that a few years ago, I'm uncomfortable imagining myself having to deal with the hatred he's getting. The thought of it makes me so uncomfortable. I'm amazed. It doesn't bother you at all. You enjoy it.
No, because I know when that's happening that it's good, that it's successful, and that people who seek me out and are looking at it online are going to be happy. So that's how I know that it's going to be like an effective thing. Like I don't give a fuck about the people that came to watch it. Because the other thing is anybody who goes to open mic to do stand up and like try out stand up in a liberal city is just a scumbag. Like they're all like idiots, and their material is so bad. And their ideas about like these are other stand-ups, and they're not laughing at some shit that I know that I've said some shit that's super funny. I don't think I'm a great stand-up. I don't think that everything I do is like good, but I know that I've said things in front of audiences like that are super funny that people should laugh at. And these dumb motherfuckers are just sitting there like that, like waiting for me to get off the stage so they can do their like Louis C.K. ripoff bit that they practiced. So I forgot what your question was, but oh yeah, hey, in that Arab one, is that the one where I had the fake bomb at the end? Did you see that?
Yeah, you had a fake bomb in a suitcase, and then the organizer removed you from the premises.
Fuck, I love that so much. That's so good. My friend JD made that as a prop. He's like a prop maker. He makes crazy shit. And we made this fake bomb.
Oh, wait, that was the bomb that when you open it, like a foghorn goes off.
Yeah,
and a bunch of lights start flashing from the bomb.
It was like a suitcase, and when you open the suitcase, there's a foghorn and a police light, and it's supposed to look like an explosive device.
It did. It was funny. You did upset some of the people there.
Are you not worried with something like that though? Because people are so, for lack of a better word, trigger happy. Like if the cops ever show up, explain to them that it's a joke bomb might be awkward.
Yeah,
but
probably.
Joke bomb.
No, I'd just be like, no, it's a fucking foghorn and a police light in a suitcase. What are you talking about?
But you're in the
crazy?
robe, so all they hear is la 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 la.
That's
la.
all I had to wear. That's all I had to wear. My clothes. It's laundry day. Is it illegal? Is it illegal to wear a sheet, officer?
It is illegal to wear a sheet and yell "Assalamu alaikum" at people who don't want you around them.
Listen, here's the thing about police is that all you have to do is make them think that you're a pillhead and that you're mad about something really insignificant, and you need to be aggressively more mad than they are interested in questioning you, and you need mad at somebody else, not them. Yeah. So, for example, I recently sent a bunch of death threats to somebody and threatened some person really bad. And I after I did it, I was like, oh man, I fucked up. I better get ready to run. And the state police came to talk to me, and when they came, I went, yeah, listen. They were like, did you threaten this man? Did you threaten to kill this person? No, I didn't say I was going to kill him. But listen, he made me late for my Uber Eats. So I'm standing there. I'm hungry. I've been hungry for 6 hours, dude. Dude, I've been hungry for 6 hours. And it was like the topic, the real thing was he was trying to find out if I was unstable about some political issue, which I am. So if I had said, yeah, and check out whitenationalism.com, that would have been the worst answer. So what I said was, yeah, I said some shit because I was pissed off at him about my Uber Eats. That fucking guy made me so mad. And if he comes back here, I'm not saying I'm going to kick his ass, but I might do something. I wasn't in character like that, but I upped the ante by like threatening. I was like, yeah, and if I see that guy again, listen, I'm not a violent person, but if he makes me miss my Grubhub, it's on. And this fucking state trooper was like, yeah, I get hungry like that too sometimes. Listen, don't contact him again.
Don't contact me.
Yeah.
Just a big fat fucking pig. I get hungry too sometimes.
Well, state trooper was a cool guy. He was handsome. He was a Chad. And he was like me. He had my body type. And I knew that he was going to get pissed off when he's hungry because I get pissed off when I'm hungry. So I knew that would be like the common bond with this state trooper that was jacked with me.
I just got here. I'm in Cigarette Hooker Hotel. Sam told me to book this hotel. It's terrifying. But if I was, literally the second I'm done here, I have a mysterious address that on Google Maps looks like a parking lot. And I'm going to meet him there. And I'm like, it'll be about midnight. He's like, that's okay. And I'm like, great. I'm like that too. So I'm like, okay. So I gave the keys of my life to maybe one of the only guys on the internet that makes me feel nervous. That guy. I gave him the keys to my life. It was very difficult saying to my boxing coach, a pro boxing coach, I'm like, oh, I'm leaving to do a fight camp. He's like, oh, with who? And I'm like, oh, the ghost of Kiev.
You're doing the iDubbbz fight.
Yeah.
And you've conscripted Sam Hyde to get you in punching form. So what is your full plan leading up to it?
I'll give you guys like the whole thing, how it even got here to begin with.
Definitely.
iDubbbz, I don't have like a savage killer instinct in me. I'm not Kyle, you know what I mean? I don't have that. So when iDubbbz like, oh, do you want to who wants to box? I was like, me. And he was like, oh, great. But I didn't think he would ever find someone to box me because I'm 6'5", like 290. And I always watch these YouTube boxing events. Did you guys watch these ever? You ever watch them?
I've seen some of the highlights of them.
Especially the main event, that Logan Paul and Jake Paul.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I watched all these things. It's like a guilty pleasure of mine watching them. But I also, like, if you came to my house and saw my YouTube recommended, you'd be like, this is terrible. It's just like, it's like a 2-hour video about a YouTuber that I hate, narrated by a YouTuber I hate even more. Don't ask me why I sit down and watch this shit, but it's a guilty pleasure and I do it.
Yeah.
And the boxing events, my buddies always like, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? And I'd be like, yeah, right. You know, you don't have to pay me so much to do it. Yeah, well, it turns out you don't have to pay me anything. That's just where my career is at now. I have to box. I have to punch another YouTuber. But the thing is, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And when he hit me back, and I'm going to give you guys all the inside shit right now.
Yes.
When he hit me back, I was supposed to box a guy named Anomaly, who I don't know if you know.
I'm not familiar.
He's a YouTuber. I'm familiar with him because he did a video called Autistic Mealtime, Part 1 and 2.
Oh,
And he's like he's like my height, 6'5". He's 300 pounds. We're both like, gamers. We both, have penises that probably look really small compared to our huge bodies. And I was excited to box him. And he always wears like a ski mask.
Wait, you wanted to fight someone
like,
your own size? That sounds horrible.
Yeah, I did. But he's like me. He's like a gamer.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to call him up and I'd be like, just so you know, like I'm not like I'm not like a guy that's like savage killer instinct, like I'm gonna go gloves up and fuck you up or anything. We're gonna be two huge dudes in there. It'll be a show no matter what happens. We'll have big gloves on. It's gonna be fine. And he was pretty down for it, but with his training, something happened. He wasn't comfortable moving ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, before the iDubbbz thing happened, I was actually messaging Sam Hyde. I happened to be watching his stuff on my stream, and he just said in a video before the iDubbbz thing was announced, but I was already committed to the iDubbbz thing. He was like, yeah, I want to box Hassan, whatever. And then he was like, you know what? I'd even box the Epic Mealtime guy. And he said that just at the end of the video. And me with like 3 boxing lessons, I was like, I'll box you. And then we got on the phone. He was like, $25,000 if you box me, $100,000 if you knock me out. And I was like, who are you, Sam? Like, who are you? Like, I'm not now, if you came in, you were like $100 to box me, $500 if you knock me out. I'm like, okay, bitch. But $100,000 it's like, no one's putting that up unless they have like, a lot of confidence. And I've seen so many videos of him punching and kicking and doing all this shit for like years, And I've never been like a fan of combat. And this is just a guy that like, he's a guy that likes to fight. Like I actually believe that when Sam took
he's really big too.
The bridge. Yeah, he is. He's 6'4", 270. And when he took iDubbbz under that bridge in that little documentary, and he was getting iDubbbz to punch him, and he was kind of hitting iDubbbz back. I believe that was the conception of this boxing event. Because if that happened to me, ever since I started punching, I feel much better. I'm good. Like there are some people in life that I'd be like, oh, he's muscular, I would never punch him. And now I'm like, oh, I would get in the ring with that guy. I'm confident to last a round at least. I won't win, but I can go in the ring with him. And I think iDubbbz was like maybe, and I'm making this up, and I talked to Ian a lot, obviously, but he started training a lot, like around since then. And now this event is happening. And so, I think in some ways, I think of watching Sam and then getting on the phone with Sam and speaking to iDubbbz, being in the event and watching their video, which by the way, the Sam Hyde cut of iDubbbz documentary followed by the iDubbbz cut of the Sam Hyde documentary is like my favorite back-to-back videos this year. It was such good content, both of them. I loved it. So I had an open line to Sam and I was talking to him, and he was like, hey, why don't you send me your sparring footage? And I was like, okay. Oh, because I told him, I was like, I sparred a heavyweight and it really wasn't so comfortable. I didn't do that well. And he was like, oh, send it to me. And I sent it to him, which I think in a way was like trusting, because, he did that video with iDubbbz and he released it early. He forced iDubbbz's hand to release that video.
Well, Paul, I think he didn't do anything for 6 or 9 months. Like early is pretty relative. He was under the impression iDubbbz would never release it, so he didn't want to.
So he did it, but he didn't even hit him up, being like, "By the way, I'm going to release this shit."
Okay.
So I sent him a sparring video, which if he uploaded it, it would be hilarious content, because he'd be like, look at the Epic Mealtime guy. He's such a fucking idiot. And I would love that video if he did that. Don't do that if he ever sees this. But I sent it to him, And I was like, yeah, if this gets sent out, like it breaks an NDA, I can't be on camera fighting someone else. And, I sure as hell don't want to get ripped up by, I don't want to get lampooned by Sam Hyde and my fighting skills before the match. But I sent it to him, and I think he maybe appreciated that I trusted him in that sense, because he sent me back like a long list of voice memos. It was practically like speaking on the phone. He was like, how long into your fight? And I was like, 7 weeks. He was like, okay, you're trash. You're very bad at this. You look all sorts of fucked up in there. I'm going to have you, if you can, do you want to come here? And I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, how big are you? He's like 6'4", 270. And I was like, okay, so if I go and I fight Sam Hyde twice a day, every single day for 7 weeks, a single game grump should be pretty easy for me.
Oh yeah, he's gonna take you on the bridge.
I shaved my beard off because I don't want to bring the sauce boss with me. I just got here. Got here. I'm in Cigarette Hooker Hotel. Sam told me to book this hotel. It's terrifying. But if I was,
I just realized this just got a lot cooler.
This is where we do the trading.
Oh no!
If I were to book my own hotel, I know me, I would get like some sick hotel in Rhode Island. I'd be like ordering room service, but instead, like the stench that I know is here, hidden by like perfume made to like hide cigarette and like old vagina juice smell. Yep. It's like I feel like it's just I'm in full beast mode.
It's
like I said,
Harley, it's hard to get up and run if you're sleeping in silk sheets.
Yeah. So I shaved my beard. I left the sauce boss at home, and I'm going to be a pupil.
You really,
and I'm going to be a pupil too. Yes, that would be cool. I would come to visit you for that one then. 7 weeks of steroids.
I can't help you that, but I know who can.
So is your first day of real training tomorrow then?
This is Sam Hyde. Remember, it's Sam Hyde.
It might be any minute, huh?
Literally the second I'm done here, I have a mysterious address that on Google Maps looks like a parking lot. And I'm going to meet him there. And I'm like, it'll be about midnight. He's like, that's okay. And I'm like, great. I'm like that too. So I'm like, okay. So I gave the keys of my life to maybe one of the only guys on the internet that makes me feel nervous. That guy. I gave him the keys to my life, and he blocked off the next 2 weeks of his life, and he's got a fucking bonkers life. I don't even know what's happening there, but content is always getting uploaded and shit's always happening on his social media. So I'm going to he's gonna have his weeks blocked off, and I'm gonna go there, and I'm just like, no ego. I don't care. Like I do make a good student. I knew what it takes to be a teacher, so I know how to be a student as well. No ego. I'm willing to learn. It was very difficult saying to my boxing coach, a pro boxing coach, I'm like, oh, I'm leaving to do a fight camp. He's like, oh, with who? And I'm like, oh, the ghost of Kiev. Have you ever read How to Bomb the U.S. Government? Have you ever read that book?
Is he gonna upload this
Sergeant Maggot?
Like, it's my, I don't know if I'm reading between the lines. Sam Hyde is like, I'll train you. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna make some dope videos out of this. Maybe.
It looks like, from what I understand, and also I never know what to expect. Like I was like, maybe I'm going there and he's just gonna jump me. Like maybe I'm going there and he's just gonna jump me. I'm the one making the videos. I brought a cameraman with me, and everything's gonna be documented. And it looks like that's what he wanted in exchange for the training. It seems. I mean, if he films shit, that's cool. I'm not going to say anything. That's fine. I like the content. But I'm the one that's going to be documenting it. So it'll be, I guess, from my perspective. I
have another question.
Can I just say one thing? And you probably already know this, so forgive me if it's insulting. Don't stop rolling ever. There's you need a lot of the camera has to always be recording, because that guy's so odd. That guy's so interesting. Like there's going to be some little moment. If you turn that fucking camera off, something's going to happen, and you're going to wish it was on.
Ties into my question, which was, Harley, How do you know, or do you know Sam has your best interests in mind? I can totally imagine. Like, I'm a YouTube boxer, right? Sam Hyde calls me, says, Woody, you should come here and train. I pack up my life. I head out to, I don't know, under a bridge somewhere, and he doesn't show, right? He did that to iDubbbz for like 4 days in a row or something. Like, how do you know he's not there to fuck with you?
I don't, and that's kind of the fun part of this.
Okay.
I'm always in control in my life for the last like 10 years. So relinquishing control to a complete psychopath is kind of in a way. This is like in a weird way. It's like I love being in control. I'm all about control. Not having control is nice, I guess.
Sure.
Scary. I don't know. It's different. I've been bored the last couple years.
You're just putting yourself in Sam Hyde's capable hands.
No, I love what you've done here. I love it. I love like uprooting and just going to do this thing. It's so fucking cool. It's so fucking cool. Like I bet you're so excited about it tonight, right? Like this is gonna be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Tonight.
You mentioned that Sam kind of gave you a preview into the strategy being a mauling, more of a brawl than a boxing match. Did he kind of indicate to you what that would mean? Like just trying to bear on the guy with your size, or
you're going to run out of energy? Answer that too.
Is that going to be what you learned tonight, or did he give you a little clue?
He was like, real boxers aren't even comfortable fighting someone of your size. It's very rare. He's like, so we're gonna use that. Like if it's like falling on top of him, using him as an armrest, like, your heavy arms, everything, constant like pressure, but you're controlling the distance. I don't want to say too much of the strategy out here, but he went on and on. He didn't just compare it to Elden Ring, but he used Street Fighter also as
what did he compare with Street Fighter?
He basically broke down combos in a way, and I don't want to reveal too much of the strategy, but it made sense in my head as a gamer. Honestly, like, you want to know tonight, like, I bet you I'm going to go to the parking lot and I bet you I'm going to walk backwards for an hour.
Dude, if he starts talking about Mortal Kombat, run.
I think he's gonna make me walk backwards. He's gonna do some stuff for my ankles and knees. Like footwork is important to him, and energy expenditure, which was my biggest flaw. And he saw that in the tape. Like, he did recognize that. And like I said, my actual pro boxing coach was like, "Okay, dude, whatever you want." I got a question for you guys, and at least like if you guys don't have it, maybe someone in the comments will have something that I like. But I want to
walk out music.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you thinking? What would be good? I like the idea of me asking Sam. Like,
yes, you might want to tap Sam for that one.
Well, I want to ask Sam. I want to be like, hey, check out these shorts designs, and maybe they say like he, him, BLM, trans lives matter. And be like, what do you think about this? Just bounce back, whatever you're thinking. I want to know what your thoughts, and just like show him that design. I was also
thinking, I want you to play.
Dude, I bet he would think that was
funny. The song "Like a Rock." Like a rock, I was strong as I could be. But you're going to be wearing an Iraqi flag when you come out. So it's going to be like Iraq.
Like Iraq. That could work.
I thought about like a suit and No Chance, which is Vince McMahon's music playing, and I like do that Vince McMahon power walk, and then someone cuts me out of the suit. Or maybe because I'm in a suit, so you gotta like scissors. Like I got gloves on. Yeah, I got gloves on, so you'd have to cut the suit off me.
I love that. Yeah, my idea is the worst. I've got that. Hey, you. I know that you like me. Hey.
Oh no, he's got to come out.
It's not a secret.
He's got to come out tough with intimidation in his heart.
Dude, there's a fighter named, what's the fighter from New Jersey in the UFC? Mickey Doyles or something like that. Dude, he walks out to, hey, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind.
Yeah,
hey, Mickey, it's
that
fucking
makes sense
awesome.
a little bit, though. I was also thinking, like, what if I got, like, a bunch of dudes and I were, like, the, like Jewish talus and a kippah, and they brought me out, like, lifting me up on a chair. Like how Jews lift people up on a chair, and it plays
and if you lose, it's racist.
You're
it's a hate crime.
Pull up a picture of the Hebrew hammer.
You're going to need some strong guys.
Yes,
and a robust chair.
Or
one of them, Sam Hyde with the luchador mask on.
And that's the big reveal that it's been him boxing the whole time.
I'm so excited to hear about like what kind of training program he has you doing, because I really hope it's kind of like what I did with Wings. How there's some fundamentals and you're getting the work done, but there's also a little silliness. Like, won't you be disappointed if there's not a little silliness?
I think that even if he is not silly and he's 100% dead serious, just imagine Sam Hyde an inch from your face yelling at you what you need to do now. That's fucking silly enough for me.
He's a scary guy.
Just Sam Hyde in my face, like yelling at me is enough. Like that's enough silliness as it is. But I think I'm getting a particular guy. I think I'm probably getting the most real version. I'm getting like, self-defense Sam Hyde. Like, I'm getting like combat Sam Hyde. I'm getting like, he's ready to roll at midnight. Like at midnight, he wants to do this.
I'm wondering what's going to happen though. Like I have this imagination that like you're meeting in a parking lot and it's just going to, God, I want to know more. I want to know. I hope you.
I'm gonna text you everything, Kyle. I'll text you immediately after.
Please, I want to know what the meeting is like, because I just picturing him showing up in like a black, like Ninja Turtle type cargo van, and there's throws a smoke bomb on the ground for no reason, and he's like, "Now it begins," and like some guy comes out of nowhere and hits a gong, and then like 6 ninjas, 3 from either side, come running out of like nowhere, and you have to combat them one after another, each of them knowing a different style that he announces verbally before you begin.
I imagine I go to this address and someone waves me over and I go into a door and they're like, Sam's downstairs, and I go downstairs and it smells like strawberry vape and Chinese food and he's sitting there playing Elden Ring and he's like, start doing your stretches.
or how about
I don't know. I feel like it's somewhere in between these two.
You ring the doorbell and you're like, Sam Hyde? And he's like, yeah, this is his stuff. Here's where to take it. And you're just buying Sam's cocaine and delivering it for him. This has been an elaborate ruse.
Also, I think I thought, does Sam do drugs? I wonder if Sam sniffs coke. I wonder if Sam, I saw him smoke at the Hyde, but was that weed? Never seen him smoke somewhere else, He vapes, but I'm like, I wonder if
he's straight edge. I think he's straight edge.
What?
Didn't
Taylor
say
would
that?
know?
Yeah.
I get that feeling too. I really do get that feeling.
My temple sort of guy.
Yeah, I mean,
but I could be wrong.
Woke on. What was it like interviewing Kanye? I just saw that clip. I didn't know you talked to him.
You spoke to Kanye?
Yeah, you saw you see the clip that Ryan.
They showed a clip. There he is.
He's in a gimmick.
Oh, that's right. I remember this now.
Yeah. What was that like?
You guys should call your podcast that Never Heard of That podcast.
The not up to date show. Yeah.
I don't agree, but DKA don't know anything works.
That's fucking funny.
Okay, that's actually pretty good. Delete that. Delete it. No, keep that in. That's good.
Let's be DKA.
DKA. Don't know anything.
When I interviewed Ye, it went huge. You guys don't even know that his name is Ye now. But it was weird. He's a very likable guy. I find with blacks, the way to break the ice is sex jokes. So I talked about beating off and being horny, and I think it broke the ice, and we got along really well after that. I said, towards the end of the day, I go, you're not winning the presidency, right? And that made him really mad, and I think it ruined our friendship. But it's just a fact. There's no President Ye in any hypothetical scenario. Sorry.
Did you think he was sincerely offended by that? Like you saying... Interesting.
He thinks, I go, well, the Hitler shit is a deal breaker. And he's like, no, I think that's good for my campaign. I'm like, no, praising Hitler is considered pretty. I don't know how many consultants you have, but it's considered pretty bad as far as popularity goes.
I didn't know that. Oh yeah, dude, that's the biggest layup question of all time. You're in politics and they're like, what do you think of Hitler? Dude, I'm hitting that layup 10 times out of 10. Don't care for him. Boom. 2 points. Every single time.
2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs down. You know, I've heard about that guy. Don't get me started.
Oh,
Real rascal.
He's my
Real
pet
rascal.
peeve.
Yeah, he's my pet peeve. He's a rascal, a no
I don't
good
even
Nick.
like Charlie Chaplin because of the mustache. Fuck no.
Yeah, don't get me started on his pop. Wait, who was it? It was Ye who said, but he made that awesome highway. Like, it's like the Autobahn is one of the funnest places to drive around. And it's like, that is true.
An argument that Hitler invented the highway. That's true.
He did invent. He came up with highways.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Everybody has some good ideas sometimes.
The on-ramp cloverleaf system.
Yeah.
That was new. I mean, we copied it right after.
What if he came up with no right on red?
I kind of felt like with him and Nick
did, I think.
Fuentes, Nick was with him like 24 hours a day back then, and it was sort of like Master Blaster, and they ran Bartertown, but Nick was Master and Kanye was Blaster.
So you think that at the time Kanye or Ye was taking cues from Fuentes?
Yes. Fuentes knows a lot of shit, especially when you get into anti-Semitism. And
He's well versed.
For the record, I'm a pro-Israel and all that stuff, but I get the beef from those guys. But he's a fun dude. He's an artist. He's creative. He's weird. You know, David Bowie said we should bring back the Nazis and fascism. Like, it's a thing artists do when they run out of shit to be weird about. They start talking about Hitler and Nazism and stuff. And Sid Vicious had the swastika on his shirt. It's just part of his art.
I'm going to stop there. You're a gay.
I didn't see your interview with him. Did he speak well? When I see Kanye speak, he doesn't flow with his points.
Yeah, he's pretty typical for rappers, I guess. He was pretty funny, though. He's got a good sense of comic time. Like the part that went most viral about that interview, I said, look, blacks are overrepresented in crime, right? But when I see a black person, I start from scratch, and I'm like, take you for who you are as an individual. Now, Jews may be overrepresented in media and leftism and this kind of stuff. But when you meet a Jew, do you start from scratch? And he goes, nope.
That was a good question, though. That was well phrased.
No,
I mean, I believe he's being honest there then. He's like, oh, yeah, no, I hear they're Jewish. I got an immediate problem.
Yeah,
like,
at one point, like, he wasn't able to see his kids back then, and at one point he goes, "I don't give a shit about my life. You think I care about Jews?" Wait,
yeah, he could use some messaging coaching.
Play it, Ryan.
Represented in violent crime. But when you meet an individual black person, you don't apply that. You start with a fresh slate every time you meet someone. Do you do that with Jews?
Nope.
Good timing too, right?
Okay,
yeah,
that's very funny. Yeah, nope. Just wearing a gimp mask, zipped up. Nope. No,
yeah.
I do
What's
not.
the mask motivation? Like, I get it in public.
Be himself with the mask and not worry about how he's perceived. I don't know. That's just what he said.
Can you say it again? I was talking over you.
Oh, sorry. He said I can be myself with this mask on, and I don't worry about how I'm perceived. I can just be my true self because my face is hidden.
He knows we know it's him under the mask.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Maybe he shouldn't be vice president.
He's just comfortable in his
maybe
burqa.
ambassador to somewhere, right?
Israel.
Like, I'd like him to have some input.
Dude, I would be good with Kanye as ambassador to Israel.
Yeah, but he has to live in Jerusalem.
He's like, don't get me started on the amount of, I don't want to say it, problems around me.
You go visit him and he's just like, you believe this shit?
Yeah. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people around me with robust stock portfolios. You know?
There's another son.
These clips are absurd. That's so funny. Yeah, damn. Yeah, I haven't seen much of Kanye. The thing that like killed me more than anything was him talking to that reporter outside of like a pizza place or whatever, and like holding up the graph that shows like who owns different media organizations, and like all the Jewish names are like redded out like alarm, like and he's just holding that up a phone from 3 feet. You can't see anything, but he's just found that graphic and he's stoked on it. And so he thinks everyone should see that graphic.
I thought you were going to talk about the time where he goes, I had a doctor or something? And he's like, I can't say who he was or what his affiliation was. But anyway, this guy wanted to sabotage me and put me away for questioning things. And that man tried to alter how I felt. He was Jewish.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to say what the affiliation of this doctor was. He was a Jewish doctor.
Yeah,
yeah, you can see, dude. That's like a fucking dude. The amount of pixels in that image he's showing has been so decayed from the thousands of 4chan reposts.
It's just a blob now.
Right.
You know, he believes that he's telling the truth, though, because why else do such an unpopular thing? You know?
What do you think the psychology is behind
I
showing off his wife like that?
I think of it as an art experiment.
Making him jealous, maybe, or maybe he's trying to make her a superstar, or maybe he's just flexing. I don't care because I got to look at her. His wife is bodacious. It's ridiculous.
I feel like he thinks he's stumbled upon a treasure trove of information, and he's like, I can be the one who spreads this, making me important to the process. Because I mean, he does seem
on the way.
He's a rapper. He's a narcissist.
Remember 3 hours ago we were talking about 10s, and we were like, "Hey,
sure,
get this girl right. Whatever is a changeable thing, and if you change nothing, that's what a 10 is." Kanye's wife might be that bullseye.
Oh, I'd change the hair first and foremost. She has my exact hairdo.
She does.
Does
hers
she?
is blonde though? Yeah. Show us Kanye's wife. Somebody.
Yeah, but you both wear it well.
It's the same hair. It's a good haircut though. I'm gonna say that.
Good haircut.
I'm kind of into Gavin's hair.
You fuck her from behind, you're looking down at a 12-year-old boy.
But you see those enormous swinging titties.
I've never seen a 12-year-old boy with hangers like that.
Not from behind. You don't see those titties.
I bet you do see those from behind. I bet you see the side crescent around the side of that.
I genuinely don't mind the
torso.
haircut. I'm okay. I'm here for it.
I don't like it. She looks like a Pokemon trainer.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't like that?
No, I don't.
Want your wife to be a bodacious Pokemon trainer.
She would look better if she had long, luscious hair, right?
I gotta take my third piss. How long is this fucking show?
It's a long time. We didn't know he'd be sticking around for those. I think Kyle's right. I think Kanye and Trump would win.
Yeah, the Kanye's interesting. So I think if
you don't
Trump
think so?
wants to win,
I know you hate him. I don't like him.
A girl or a person of color.
Ye said Hitler is cool. That's pretty much a deal breaker for votes.
What if he went back?
But he's backed off that, hasn't he? He's like, been like, what I was saying was that my doctor happened to be Jewish.
He
like, whatever the fuck
no.
he said.
He was just recently about to do, I think maybe Bill Maher's show or something like that. And they did a whole interview, and Bill Maher tweeted, "I'm not releasing the 2 hours I just did with Kanye." At the conclusion, I decided that he is a very, very charismatic anti-Semite, and I don't want to expose the world to that.
Dude, honestly, credit to Maher. That's a hilarious framing of that. It's like his points were too salient and too funny.
When we talked about Putin, we said everyone needed to be heard.
Yeah. But you should hear charming and salient anti-Semites, obviously. You should hear it all.
Okay, so maybe not Kanye on the Trump ticket. I'll give you that.
I will say there is no way from today onwards you will ever see a straight white male P and a straight white male VP. That's done forever. No more Mike Pence, Trump. So when you have Trump and you're asking what the VP is, you've got to think female, gay, person of color. There's no way. Like Tucker Carlson, you go, oh, that sounds
Taylor
good,
Swift.
Male.
Taylor Swift's 35, right?
What?
Something.
Taylor Swift is 35, right?
Is that right?
That's the ticket. Yeah.
Taylor Swift?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You know what's scary is that
VP's see, Biden drops Kamala and picks Taylor Swift. They sweep.
He wins in a astounding landslide.
4 years from now, Taylor makes the case that they need one of those FDR triple terms, and the Biden empire begins.
Kristi Noem, is that person made up?
I don't even know. Hopefully, everyone's ready for some law and order. Like you look at El Salvador cleaning up, they imprison 60,000 criminals. You look at Javier over there in Argentina. Americans are both right and left are fucking sick of these open borders. It's affecting them at home. Their daughters are doing fentanyl. Their neighbors are getting robbed. And I think Trump's going to win in a landslide because he wants to close the borders and impose law and order. And I think even people who hate him are going to just swallow that bitter pill.
I agree. I was gonna ask as well. This time around, will the police be waiting for our gentleman outside? Because that's the coup de grace.
Oh, that's so satisfying.
That's
when
the
they run
cherry
out
on
there.
top.
Well, yes, we will have police will be doing a parallel investigation as in most of the investigations we did in To Catch a Predator. The first two we did not have police doing a parallel investigation, and two things happened. One, it was a little unsatisfying for the viewers to see this guy just walk off into the sunset. And even though police did and prosecutors did make cases against some of these guys, including the rabbi and the naked guy and some of the others, it made more sense to kind of involve the police and let them do their own investigation and get their own version of the transcripts from our online decoys and take it from there.
What was the most shocking, the most bizarre thing that either you read in the transcripts or perhaps the suspect did once they got to the decoy house? Because I've seen and heard so many things, and I sometimes I feel like I can read it on your face when you're conducting that. You're just, what were you thinking? Are you ever embarrassed reading the transcript?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you have to remember that I'm not just responsible to my audience or to my bosses, which I am, but I'm also responsible to, my kids' friends' parents, teachers at the schools, and all that stuff. I mean, there have been examples where, I've had a kid sitting in a class in college where suddenly they're showing, To Catch a Predator shows, and he's, do I say that's my dad? Do I give that up? Do I want that kind of scrutiny? What do I do here? And it's a big debate, and we try to be just graphic enough to show what these guys are capable of doing without being offensive. And I hope that we, tiptoed along that fine line. But yeah, I mean, in terms of what the most graphic moment was or disturbing moment, I mean, it's a 25-way tie for first. I mean, we had two naked guys, one who wanted to conduct a sex act with a young girl and a cat and whipped cream and all kinds of stuff.
That
Another
guy
guy walked in and showed up again the second day, and a guy who showed up in Fort Myers, Florida, with his 5-year-old son to walk in the house, and that silenced everybody. I mean,
he brought his kid.
He brought his kid, yeah. And you got to imagine. See, I work with a group of guys on this who've been with me in the darkest corners of the world, whether it's in Africa doing thievery stories when it comes to identity theft and all kinds of things, or Al Qaeda using blood diamonds to launder terrorist funds. I mean, these guys have been around the world with me, and in this one scene, this guy pulls up. He's the last guy in an investigation, as I said, in Fort Myers, Florida. He pulls up in his SUV. He goes to the back door, and I'm thinking he's going to pull out a pizza and a six-pack. Instead, he leads his 5-year-old son out by the hand, walks up the driveway into the house. Now, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. A collective gasp goes out in the house. And so he walks in, and I said to him, on the fly, I said, look, you know why you're here. I know why you're here. I'm Chris Hansen, and I'm just going to let you go because I don't want to traumatize your son with whom you brought. And he left, and the police arrested him and gently scooped up the son, and that was it. But it was just so shocking that somebody would do that on a Sunday afternoon.
I feel I have to ask, was he planning to involve the son in some sort of sex act, or was he just babysitting for the day?
He was babysitting for the day. His wife was at work. I think he was going to go set him in another room and watch Barney videos or whatever, and go do his thing with a 13 or 14-year-old boy. And the shocking part of it was the backstory to that, which was he had to move out of his house because child services said you can't be in there during this investigation. Ultimately, he moves into the house. The child is moved to a relative's house. He's living there and, has another child with the mother before he goes to trial and gets a 4-year prison sentence. And it just really, the lesson of that is, and what we're going to do with the new series is we're going to try and do more of the front story and the backstory. In other words, we're going to try to have more information about this person before they actually come to the house. So, we see a scenario where there could be surveillance and, show this person doing, if it's a teacher, we show them teaching. If it's a doctor, we show them, practicing medicine. We do whatever we have to do. And then you have more context.
That's brilliant.
It's coming from and doing. So that's,
How do you gather it though? Like,
well, we're going to have to do research, and we have a strategic alliance with LexisNexis and Security Solutions and other data mining outfits. And we're going to be able to do it.
That's going to be brilliant. That's going to create a whole narrative. There's going to be drama. You'll be able to
exactly. I mean,
that's
you
going to be excellent.
watch the person, as much as we can, build into the situation. Now, in the past investigations, obviously we've been able to know something about the people. We knew the rabbi was the rabbi. We knew the doctor was a doctor. We knew the police officer was a police officer. But this actually gives us the ability to paint a better picture of who this
and perhaps to follow them beforehand. Maybe you follow them to that drugstore they go to purchase those condoms, and that would be great as a viewing experience.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, have you ever been so angry or upset with one of these guys that you're sitting across from that you've actually wanted to hit them? Like these when you hear what these guys are there for, and when you see
there have to be some,
because some of them have an attitude. It seems like there's just here, doing my thing. What's your problem?
Oh, I'm just here to rape a kid. Like you have to want to punish those fucks.
Well, I understand what you're getting at. I mean, my job is not to mete out punishment. My job is to get these people to sit and talk and get in their brains so I can better understand the way they think, so we can better protect our children. Yes, as a parent of two sons, did I sometimes feel a sense of outrage? Of course. It's not my position to get in a fight. I mean, I was more worried about, okay, where are their hands? What do they got going on? Even though we had tons of security, and we will in the next investigations, there's a lot going on, and you're watching a lot of different things. You're trying to go through the transcripts. You're trying to engage the guy. I mean, anybody can jump out of the bushes and scare somebody and make them run off and create, 30 seconds of dramatic television. My goal with this, and with any other investigation I've done, is to get them to sit, talk, and get in their minds. And that's what we were able to do, and that's what made this and unique, and what will make the new investigation.
So on the flip side of that,
was there ever a time where you came across someone as you walked into that kitchen where you thought, oh, Jesus, like this guy doesn't look like a bad guy or doesn't sound like a bad guy? Was there ever a time where you came in and you just wished this guy had thought better of himself? Like,
well, I mean, obviously there were some cases where, you feel sympathy for these guys, and, they break down into three different categories. And I'm not a psychiatrist or an expert in this field, but based on my experience, you've got the hardcore heavy hitters who'd be doing this with or without the internet. You've got this group in the middle who have a predilection for it, but wouldn't be doing it unless they had the internet and the addictive quality and the 24-hour access and, the anonymity, the 3 A's. And then you've got this other group, guys in the early 20s who are, not very social, and they see a 14-year-old girl online. They figure, well, it's only 8 years difference, and in 10 years it won't make a difference at all. And they go for it. Those are the guys who can probably be given probation and registration as a sex offender and computer monitoring and a rap on the hand and never do it again. The other guys, it's a different story. We had, 3-time offenders in some of these cases walk in.
Well, you mentioned earlier the gentleman who came 2 days in a row, I think, it's absurd. Going at that point, what's the farthest distance or the greatest lengths that someone ever went to get to that house?
I think we had somebody drive about 5 hours. I think it was the greatest, 5 to 6 hours. And that happened on a couple of occasions, from one side of one state to the other, or from another state down. I mean, we had a guy who was actually a police officer in a small town at the Alabama-Florida border, who he'd been online all week, and he was just a really graphic chatter. And, some of these guys just chat and they never show up. I mean, probably 40% of them. So we shut down one night early for us because we would work till 3 o'clock in the morning, the day before. And we get back to the hotel, and suddenly cell phones are going off, and it's the decoy calling saying this guy just called from a payphone. He said he went by the house and it was dark. Now, there's no one switch to turn on the predator house. I mean, this takes a lot of engineers to put this together. So what ended up happening was the police made a traffic stop. And in fact, the guy was a police officer. He had a .38 caliber gun in his pocket. In his car, he had an assault rifle, a shotgun, and a .45. hundreds of rounds of ammunition and a video camera and an anchor and duct tape and bulletproof vests. I mean, you know, God knows what would happen if he showed up. And people always ask, you know, did you ever feel there was a time when you dodged a bullet? And I think, yeah, that was the time, you know.
I can't imagine what the anchor was for.
He would tie it to a body, perhaps, and throw it into a body of water.
It's hard to speculate. I mean, maybe he had a boat. I mean, he was an outdoorsman. I mean, maybe he, you know, wouldn't have used any of the guns at all. But
that's true.
Have to find out, you know.
As you like laid out that laundry list, I was thinking, like, I've got all that stuff in my car.
Right. I was like, a 38. That's not that big a deal.
The assault rifle was bothersome, though. Right?
Yeah, exactly, Kyle. The assault rifle was bothersome. How do you feel about that?
You know,
well, it's definitely bothersome when you've got a pedophile come into the decoy house with one. You wouldn't want.
How do you
play? Was there ever any like survival type training that you did? Like, I gotta imagine, especially because like all right, so when Americans think of Australia, we think of a gigantic desert, and obviously there's the coast. It seems like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like most people live around the coast, and that. Then there's that huge part of Australia that it's like, yeah, we don't go there.
So pretty much everything that's not on the East Coast or the South, like pretty much, there's like, imagine a U. So the West Coast, South Coast, and East Coast are all fairly populated. West, not so much. And there's one major city up the top in the middle. And there's one city in the dead center. And then everything outside of those is just uninhabitable almost.
There's a city in the middle?
Yeah, it's called Alice Springs. There's not much there.
Yeah, what do you think?
There's a casino, and that's about it. I've never been there, but I just know there's a casino from a book I read. That's about it. On the eastern side, like that's where all like the stuff you guys would know, like Sydney and Melbourne and you know all that.
So did you ever do any like survival type training out there in the outback?
In Australia. So so in Australia, like you do like all your first aid stuff, and they focus a lot more on snakes and stuff like that. Because like I didn't step on, but I nearly stepped on probably about 5 snakes during navigational exercises and they were like nasty ones too. My mate honestly saved my life probably 3 times. I just didn't look down that much, you know. But when we went to Thailand with one of the exercises, we had like the Thai special forces do a survival thing, and that was loose. He had like snake's blood for us to drink. He had like just the most random shit. And what are the ones with the 2 dots on the back of their head? Is that king cobras?
I have no idea. We don't have those here.
I think they're king cobras. He had like us in a circle, and it wasn't a big circle. And he just chucks one in the middle of us, and he's got a stick. He's just flicking it back to the middle every time it started moving towards the edge. And it was just like, it was loose. He was like playing with all these snakes and that. And he pissed in a bag and drank the piss. And it was just like, this is loose.
Was this Bear Grylls?
Yeah, this is like the Thai Bear Grylls.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
the population of Alice Springs is 25,000. That's a town at best.
Yeah,
it's smaller than a lot of suburbs. Yeah,
yeah.
And then in Malaysia there was a survival thing that I didn't do that one, but it went for about 3 or 4 days, and they build huts, and I think they get like a rabbit and they skin a rabbit and eat the rabbit, random stuff like that.
Skin a rabbit and eat the rabbit. Did you see any Thai guys do that thing where they stick their head in a crocodile's mouth and like dare it to bite down?
No, none of that shit.
Oh, that's disappointing.
So like, I always explain the army as something like this. It's like 65% is sitting around bored out of your brains. There's about 30-ish% of like back breaking, shoulder breaking, knee breaking agony of like walking around or lifting heavy shit. And there's like 1 to 5% of like the most coolest shit you'll ever do. So you break that down into days. There's like maybe 2 weeks of the year actually do anything cool. And then the rest of the year you're either just sitting around or breaking your back.
The cool stuff. Like I got to imagine that's when you get to play with like different weapon systems, right?
I've shot pretty much everything the Shaun army has for a normal soldier, not special forces or anything. Just some of the places you go, sometimes you're in the moment, you don't really think about it, and then you stop and you're like, holy shit, it's cool. Like some of the stuff on top of mountains and that. I'm big on mountains, so for me, going somewhere really scenic is always nice. I don't know. There's just some cool shit you do. I need something to trigger my brain to think of them.
Did you get to blow any shit up?
We've used a lot of deck cord when I was in, blowing up trees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Banking claymores. I think the most amount of claymores I've had seen being banked up was probably about 15 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a pretty big bang when that one went off. Claymores aren't really that deadly. Like obviously you wouldn't want to stand in front of them, but the bang is brutal. Like if you were like anywhere within 50 meters of a claymore and you weren't ready for it, you'd hit the deck. You'd be fucking.
Yeah, it's a real sharp explosion too. It's not that like rolling boom. It's just a pop. It's very, very loud. Anything plastique is. You know, a dead cord's really fun though. Dead cord's one of the most fun things to play with.
Yeah, so pretty much I think I can't remember the rule is, but you do a certain amount of laps around a tree for every thickness, and then you can blow up trees and shit. I shot plenty of Carl Gustav 84mm rocket launchers and seen plenty of Javs being shot. I've shot plenty of 66 mil. 40 mils are always fun. They're absolutely. The rule is you got to try and get as many in the air at the same time. So like when you're at the range, you're like, could we get next one? Yeah, I've shot the automatic grenade launcher, the Mark 19. That's fun. That's probably the coolest gun I've shot. I've actually got a really interesting story for you. So I've shot a heap of 50 cal, and so we used to be mechanized when I first got in the battalion I was in. So we all had to get trained on how to use the 50 cal. So if we ever quickly get in the vehicle and start shooting it if we have to. But we did a lot of ground mounted stuff as well. So we had it on a tripod, and this one time we did this massive attack, and then we changed position. So I had to do the support position where we were just shooting to the background, while this platoon was pretending to attack up to shoot this other stuff, all live fire. So this was one of the coolest things I'd done at this stage. So this platoon probably had about 30 people. They're attacking towards these targets popping up. They're shooting, just all their normal guns and throwing grenades. West off to the side, probably about 150 meters to the side, with we had 284s, 266s going off nonstop. We had 2 ground mounted 50 cals, and I think someone shooting 40 mil, all going off into behind to where they're attacking. So obviously it's safe for them. They're not going to get hit because we're shooting but it's to simulate a fuckload of noise, like realistic noise, as they're trying to attack a position. Anyway, so I'm behind this 50 cal because you had to be qualified on the guns to shoot them. And I'm behind this 50 cal and I'm shooting it, and I got about 300 or 400 rounds in. I had the stoppage, and there's different types of stoppages, but this one was called a hard cock. And so what happens is the cocking handle wouldn't go all the way back; it was jammed halfway. And so my section commander came over and started kicking the shit out of it. Like that's actually how you actually get it out, right? So you got to just kick the shit out of it because they're big fucking guns. He kicks the shit out of it, and it finally dislodges the round that was stuck in there or whatever it was. And in the process of this, something happened, and I'll get back to that. So my company sergeant major was standing right behind me. He's in charge of the gun line, and he's like, "Yep, continue firing." I'm like, "Yep, seeing I'm firing now." And I went to shoot it, and the gun blew up. Right, legit, just massive breach explosion. Big puff of smoke and just metal going around, and natural reaction, I covered my face and hit the deck, right? It's hard to explain it, but imagine having a tripod going, I don't know, down like that. It's hard to fucking explain it, but you have your feet up on the fucking legs, and your groin is aiming directly at this fucking 50 cal. So your dick, everything's just exposed to this gun, and the breech on a 50 cal is underneath it, so everything that comes out goes down. So when it blew up, I hit the deck and I'm covering my face. My company sergeant major was standing behind me. He's like, "Are you all right? You're right." I'm like, "Yeah, face is good." But my leg fucking hurts. And there's blood coming out of my leg right next to my, right where your femoral artery is. So it's right up in my groin.
Shit.
And it's just seeping out, not gushing, but I was it was fucking hurting. And so instantly, we knew something happened, and a bit of the cartridge blew out of the bottom, went in, missed my femoral artery, it missed all my nerves, and just lodged right up my groin. And it was the first time anything like that had happened any time recently. So it was big stop. And then the ambulance got called forward, but the ambulance didn't know where the fuck it was. They went to the wrong spot. And there's this golden hour rule in the military. You're always going to be within an hour of the hospital. Tell you, if I was fucking going to die that day within that hour, I was no way I was getting to the hospital. But instantly, as soon as it happened, pants were ripped off, Fucking everything's out exposed. My mate's got his arm on me, his hands on my fucking groin. It's like fucking shit was going everywhere. And it's just like almost literally. And it was actually a pretty fucking freaky story. And
yeah,
to actually explain what happened, I think in the process of the actual gun being kicked, the barrel dislodged. So the way a 50 cal works, the barrel's loose and it comes back and it gets pushed to the side. And I think in the kicking of it, it actually pulled it center. So it was actually just sitting in there. And when I cocked the gun and put the next round in, imagine that's the whole of the gun and the round sticking out the back. It actually had a bit of the cartridge still sticking out the back. So when the firing pin hit the primer cap, it blew the back of the cartridge out. And like the actual bullet of the 50 cal was stuck halfway up the gun with half the cartridge still attached to it. Because they actually cut the barrel open on the investigation. And all the other part of the cartridge came out the bottom and into my leg.
Yeah,
so,
you just made a little. It's just a little brass pipe bomb at that point. We used to take empty 50 cal hulls, put some black powder in them, put a fuse in, crimp the top, and you've got little mini hand grenades.
Yeah.
And that just blew up right next to your dick.
Yeah. So I missed all the crown jewels, so everything's all good there. But yeah, it was fucking pretty scary moment. And I was
what
only
a
new at that
terrible
stage.
way to lose your dick.
It would have been. Yeah.
How'd that happen? Well, my commanding officer, it was kicking the gun I was using, and then I tried to fire it, and now I don't have a dick. Like
So
that,
initially, everyone was blaming me. Everyone was blaming me, saying it was called a cook-off. So you shoot too many rounds, and the feed gets too hot, and it blows up because like the round goes in, and before it can even fire it, because there's so much heat going through it, it just blows up the round. And that's actually quite common. I've actually seen a fair few YouTube videos of it. Mine was definitely not a cook-off. Like I did nothing wrong, potentially. Like I was only a new soldier anyway, but later on that year when I was in Malaysia, there was another guy. He actually had a cook-off, and his blew up and actually went into his testicle. And he was screaming that he was on fire, and no one believed it. Like because they knew it blew up, but he's like, "I'm on fire." And they started calling him Ricky Bobby from that point onwards because he had a bit of brass in his testicles.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And I've never met anyone else in the military that had that. It happened to. So.
Wow, what a lucky guy.
Yeah.
So you get I don't even know how it works in the U.S. military. Like, do you get a Purple Heart or something for getting injured, or is that only in like actual like line of
enemy
duty
has to
stuff?
shoot you.
No, so you're always covered under veteran affairs and that if you ever get an injury in the military. It's a bit of a process to get all the claims and that in, but once you do have it, you're covered for life. So, for example, my leg starts to play up now, which it hasn't yet. I would have it permanently covered for the rest of my life. Like I've had busted ankles and stuff like that. That's all covered because I've filled out all the documentation for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I ever go to hospital and my ankle's playing up and I need to get an ankle reconstruction, they'll pay for it. But you got to fill the paperwork out. It's a pretty lengthy process. You're also covered for cancer, except for brain cancer. There's a few things. Even just as soon as you've served, you get covered for certain things.
Seems like
not brain cancer.
Brain cancer covered.
Well, okay, one of my best mates has brain cancer, and he's still serving. So,
well, we can't afford to cover the brain cancer after all those tests we run on him.
Well, technically, once they boot him out, because he's going to have to get kicked out eventually. There's going to be a point where he's going to lose function to half his body. He's not going to be covered by the military.
That's
potentially.
Jesus, that's bullshit.
Yeah, they're paying his bills at the moment, but at one point they'll be like, But the good thing for them is they're using him as a poster boy because, like, this guy's got cancer and he's still serving and doing all this great stuff for cancer, research, raising money. And all
what kind of cancer does he have? Don't worry about it. It's the kind we're covering right now.
So, yeah.
Is he going to live?
No, he'll die from it.
Sounds pretty bad. Yeah.
So, I don't know the exact name of it. His Instagram's Willie Beating Cancer. And it's a tumor in his head. They can't operate it out. If they do operate it out, what will happen is he'll probably lose function to part of his body, half of his body. Just not sure to what severity. But because he's so fit and healthy already, the surgeons pretty much said, live your life now because it'll be better than being, half paralyzed and not being able to do anything. But he'll eventually either get the surgery done and then have a few extra years, or it's that coin flip. Like, what do? Do you live?
Remember how you said it was hard to get fired in the service? I'd put that to the test, right? Go AWOL, live my best life, which probably involves not working a bunch.
Well, whilst getting chemo and all that, he actually got a really good opportunity to just pretty much taking as much time as he wanted off. Because 1 week of the month he'd have chemo, and then the week after he'd be fucked.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had 2 good weeks. So the 2 good weeks, he literally just did whatever he wanted.
Yes.
But then he'd be, then back to the chemo week, and it was fucked again. And
he needs whatever drugs they're pumping into Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if she's even still around. Because if it can knock out, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, my understanding, the most lethal cancer out there, it could help with brain cancer, right? She needs to share the load, share the love.
Wait. Maybe Share the Load is our charity.
Share the load. Yeah.
Samwise Gamgee quote. I like it.
Yeah. That's bullshit. That sucks. Man, how old is he? Is he, like you said, he was fit, so young guy? Oh, Jesus.
24,
that's
you
tragic.
said?
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of my diggers when I was Lance Corporal. I was in charge of him.
What is a digger?
A soldier, just an infantryman.
Okay.
Private. The guys dig holes.
That makes sense. He's a digger. He digs holes. Yeah. God damn. I was hoping you would say he was much older than that. 24. That's pretty tragic.
But he could live for another 20 years.
Yeah.
If he lives healthy and they keep monitoring it, it could hit him all of a sudden, and it's not going to. The thing is, he'll know he's going to know it's having effect on him because it'll slowly put more pressure on that part of the brain, and he'll slowly start losing strength in half of his body. So his hand grip will start getting weaker, and he'll know it's coming along. So that's when he'll take more drastic actions on what should happen. But by that stage, it could even be too late to get surgery. So,
man, I'd so much rather just get hit by a bus one day and not know. Just like you're gone. Hopefully
Really?
many years from now.
I'd like a little heads up.
Like knowing that it's coming, like, I was trying to do my workouts and stay fit, and I couldn't hold on to the dumbbell in my right hand. I thought it was I thought I felt something last week, but no, I thought it was just, maybe a nutrition thing. But oh man, now it's coming. It's coming down the pike, and it's not going to stop. That's scary.
He was massive into just partying and traveling, which the traveling part's all good. But now he's actually started to do a lot more meaningful stuff with life, as in he's actually doing the things he wants to do, like, drive fast cars and go do all this cool stuff, because it's kind of just said, well, it's not just about partying now, it's about living life to how I want to live it. And that's kind of how I live as well now. I've been doing that for a while, though. I want to go to Europe, I'm going to live in Europe.
Yeah,
there's a really good song that reminds me of. It's called "Live Like You Were Dying." The guy finds out he's dying of cancer, and it's like, you think he's like he took a good long hard look at what he's gonna do, and then it's like, and then the chorus is like, he went skydiving, Rocky Mountain climbing. He went 2.7 seconds on a bull name. He went bull riding. Like he took that as the initiative to like really start living life to the fullest.
I'd give every drug a go just to see.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Anna Nicole Smith was a bitch. I can do better. No,
what
just me.
What did she die from?
Drugs, right? She OD'd, I think.
I have no idea.
Maybe it's too old.
Well, see, but I wouldn't OD on the drug. I would have my brain tumor, and then I would be like, I'm giving heroin a shot. Oh, that was pretty tits. I'm going to be addicted to this the rest of my short life.
The doctor's like,
meth really stresses me out.
I can see why people like this.
It turns out the tumor hates the heroin, Taylor. We're going to need you to really...
Yeah, just the tumor hates meth and heroin and everything. It's like how one man cured himself, and it's me shaking in the middle of a street in a cardboard box. I'm all better with no teeth. Yeah.
You're all itchy.
Gaunt as fuck. Yeah. No, I'd try that one. I'd want to skydiving. That almost seems cliche.
He
but
died
I would do that if I was dying.
Combined drug intoxication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too many drugs.
I had another question for you. Changing topics. I heard you had some issues with your vehicle being vandalized.
God damn. Did I tell you guys about the last 4 times it got vandalized?
If you did,
I might have. Yeah. All right. So let me try and go through a history of my vehicle, because let me start back. When I moved out to North Carolina, or to LA, I bought my dad's car for like $600. It was a 2002 Pontiac Grand Prix, 295,000 miles on it. Like it whined. It was my beater, but that was the car that I had. You know, I was like a little YouTube guy. And then eventually, like once things started to pick up, and I totaled the car by ripping off the passenger. My girlfriend at the time was backing up the car, ripped off the passenger mirror, and I took it in. They're like, "Well, it's totaled." The car's and I was like,
"That
well,
mirror was the last straw."
Yeah. I was like, "Just put it back on." He's like, "No." So I was like, "Okay, fine." I got a Mercedes, and I was like, "Wow, this is incredible." Have like a not only
which Mercedes?
A C43 AMG. So I definitely did talk about that car last because I remember your words.
Picture. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
So I was like, this car is it's incredible, and I'm leasing it. So I moved back to LA after a stint in Portland, and I live in Hollywood off of a very busy street. I mean, a ton of foot traffic and shit. And one day I go out of my car and I drive it, and it's like making a bump sound, and it's physically shaking. So I pull over to the side. I'm like, something's wrong. I look around. I don't see anything wrong with the car. Like the wheels are all fine. So I call, get a tow truck. They bring it into the shop. The shop has my car for 4 days. They're like, we don't know what's wrong with it. We can't replicate the problem. But when we drive at slow speeds, we notice it. And then eventually they find out, because the way that my rims are, the lug nuts are tucked in deep into the rim. They were like, oh, all of your lug nuts are gone. And I was like, what? Like, yeah, except for the one that uses a key to take off. All of them are gone. Nut. Yeah. And I was like, so somebody tried to steal and brick my car in my carport. So I'm parked on the street, or in my carport that has street access.
Can you explain bricking your car? Is that like when they
put your car on bricks? Yeah. So they take the wheels off.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so they were driving around on like one lug nut. That thing gets sheared off, and then like that person's dead.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was scared. I was like, somebody's trying to kill me. But then, but they were like, no, like they just didn't have the right Mercedes tool. So I was like, fine. Like a couple months later, I come out and the AMG badge off my car has been ripped off. And I was like, okay, that's just fucking stupid. Like the fact that somebody would take the badge off the back of your car and probably put it on their car is just like, I thought that only happened in movies. But they also had taken off the registration on the or the whatever, like the February sticker on my license plate too.
Fuck.
I know. And I was like, well, that's like $150 sticker right there. And I got to go to the DMV. So I'm like, fine, I can't get this back. I don't even know where to start. File a police report about the two incidences. And then my neighbor upstairs calls me and he's like, hey, man, I think I found your AMG badge. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, it's on the back of the car parked directly outside your driveway. Go check it out. I walk out. There's a Mercedes out there with a janky AMG badge on the side. And I immediately know, because I love cars, that's not an AMG. It's not a G50, which it also had the badging of. And it had the wrong type of Mercedes emblem. Everything was fucked about this car. And it also had my damn sticker. So I call the cops. I get them over there. They're like, well, we can't do anything about this. Do you know what the guy looks like? I was like, no, but that's his car. That's my sticker. And that's like, well, we can't match your sticker to your car because it's just like a registration thing. We can't match the AMG badge to your car. We don't have any suspect outside of somebody could have put this on there. I'm like, you guys are being dicks, but I get it. So then the guy's like, all right, well, we've ran this car 5 times. It shows up, but nothing came back with it. And my smart ass goes, have you checked the VIN yet? And he was like, nope. Walks over to the VIN and he starts laughing. He's like, the guy scratched off all but the last 4 digits of the VIN number, ran the last 4 against the license plate, comes back stolen. They repo the car. I still don't have my badge back. That's the last 6 months.
Should be like, hang on a minute before you take it.
Yeah. Exactly. I wanted to. It's like, it's evidence. So now I'm like, well, okay, all of these things have happened in broad daylight or something. I'm pissed off. I come back from Coachella and park my car, wake up the next morning, and my window is bashed. This was like 2 months later. And I was like, God damn it, I can't catch a break. They had stolen. The only thing in my backseat was a leather like box, which they probably saw and were like, that's something expensive. And they weren't wrong. It was my friend's hair dryer, very expensive hair dryer. But somebody saw it was like, there's some nice stuff in there. Now it was just a nice hair dryer. So then now, I'm walking back from the store. I'm hungover. It was like the day after football, and I have a beer or a 6-pack of beer and a can of salsa because I just walked to like the 7-Eleven down the street, and I walk past my car and I see it like somebody had drawn on it, and I just put it down and just stared at it because I was trying to figure out. I wasn't even like mad. I was just trying to figure out what the fuck somebody had written on it. They had written "Come in my food," live TV, Beyonce died, come in my food, or something like that.
How do you spell "come" in this scenario?
All right,
cum.
Okay,
you're dealing with a madman. First of all,
yeah.
Second of all, why don't you have cameras?
All right, so I love this thing, Kyle. There are 3 million people in Los Angeles. All right,
Okay.
What is a photo of somebody going to do for me?
Well,
what if the camera was very public? And
right, but all right, I will get to that in a second.
Okay.
So somebody wrote "come on my food" in permanent marker on there, and I was just like, well, I guess I'm taking this into the shop, not before I bitch about it. My next door neighbor offered to help me with it, but I was just like, it's a lease. I don't want to fuck up the paint job.
Can I interrupt? I got a little lost on the coming on the food. He wrote this somewhere
on the car,
on the back of my car. Do you have a photo of it
with a key? I don't. With a key or something like?
I'll give you with permanent marker,
like a Sharpie. He wrote "come on my food."
Here, I'm going to. Here is a photo that I will post in the Discord.
Well, this guy's just a super fan, Tucker. Why don't you just satisfy his request?
That's what I was worried
about.
about.
Oh my god, this is
wow.
that cool.
First of all, your car's lovely.
Thank
Sick
you.
Car.
But yeah, just like look at the handwriting, everything. So here's the thing. One, as soon as I saw it, I realized that it was probably somebody who is probably like a tweaker or something. Like nobody writes like that's just none of this makes sense. Then my neighbor, who was parked on the street, also had "come in my food, Jay-Z dead, Beyonce did it, come in my food" on the hood of their Volkswagen. So at that point, I was like, some fucking homeless guy was just like on one and just was marking all these cars. So yeah, I have since taped glued or whatever a fake camera above my carport.
Okay.
But it's not going to stop this guy. Like this guy is going to do this no matter what.
Touche. Yeah.
Here's why I think the camera is a good idea. First of all, they're very cheap, and when someone my house is full of cameras. The outside of my house is full of cameras, and like if one of them gets tripped by motion sensing, I get a notification. It's like, hey,
Kyle,
movement on the south lawn.
Kyle,
and
I live on a very, very busy street. My car is on the street. I'm sticking with you. I'm sticking with you.
You can turn that off. You can turn the notification off. It's got night vision and the whole thing. You can watch live from anywhere, any of your cameras, all the time. But if you recorded this maniac writing "come in my food" on your car, I'm not saying that the LAPD is gonna like beat the streets and look for this guy. But you're a content creator, and this is content.
Yeah, you're right. I could have gotten more content out of it. I could have monetized that Twitter video. Yeah, you're right. There was some money to be had there.
Yeah, enough money to certainly.
All right, so
Kyle's thinking. He's out thinking all of us here, Tucker.
Yeah. The silver lining was that I took this into the dealership, and the guys were cracking up. Like they knew immediately they could remove it without any problem. But
the cum bandit.
Yeah. The guys was like, "You drove this here, huh?" And I was like, "Well, I just got out of the car in front of you." And he goes, "You drove here with "come in my food" on the back of your car." I was like, "Can you guys fix it?" And he goes, "Yeah, we'll do it for free. Just give us 15 minutes."
Get out.
Yeah. So they went. So what they did was they used, I think, paint thinner. They just put a little on a cloth and then they wiped it off. And since it's got it's a newer car and it's got a clear coat, they just wiped it off, wiped it with water, and they're like, "There you go, no mark on it." So I was just like, "Now this is just an obnoxiously funny story."
Did they?
The end of the world.
I got a little lost in the telling of this is the only damage on this time around.
On this particular one, yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. I went to high school with a guy that Mercedes Circle thing.
Yeah.
It might have been Volkswagen. Anyway, he popped it out of the grill and wore it as a necklace every day for like 2 years. And I didn't think much of it other than it was like a really
cool guy.
It looked like a really lame necklace. I don't know what he was going for. His whole identity revolved around being a stoner, right? Like he smelled like patchouli and he had this long hair and like everything about him. Like,
are you sure it wasn't a peace sign, Woody?
Yes. No, because I think it was actually a VW one, not a Mercedes one.
Oh, that makes sense.
And anyways, I was nearby him in school when someone dressed him down. They're like, what the fuck is with you and that necklace that you wear? It's like, one, it's ridiculous. Nobody thinks that's cool. Two, you are advertising to all of us that you are a vandal and a thief. That's who you are, and that is what you are. And I was just like dumbass me, and didn't even think about how he got it.
Like,
I thought he just had bad taste in jewelry. But yeah, that's how he got it. He popped it out of someone's front grill. He had to.
Yeah. I mean, it's like at this point, I'm just like, what more could happen to this? And also, I guess the first month that I had this car, I got rear-ended by an uninsured driver at a stoplight. So I was like, this car at this point, it's been through hell and back. Like, this is my baby. I'm gonna buy it when my lease is up, and then I'm just gonna like ride it into the ground. It's been through hell.
Nice.
Jesus Christ.
Probably
have
worth
you ever
like
done that?
$10.
Have you ever? First of all, I think it's one of the scummiest things that you can do is to vandalize someone's car, especially, or maybe mostly if it's just a random person or someone who's done nothing to you. There's a difference because maybe someone did this because you're you. But have you ever vandalized someone's car who deserved it?
I've thought about there was one person who I thought about like keying their car, and then I like really got into the mindset of like, how am I going to go about this? And I was like, well, that's not even going to like make it worth. Like, I would want to pop their window. Windows are a pain in the ass. Keying your car sucks, but like you have to pay a lot of money. You can like kind of buff it out. Maybe you break their rear windshield or whatever the fuck it's called. That's a dick move.
See, I'm on the other end of this because if it's happening to my car, I would much prefer you break one of my windows, break all my windows before you key it or dent it, because you can't buff that. If you go through,
the dent is a problem. If you dent like a quarter panel of the car, you have to replace the whole panel. That's expensive.
No, what? So you can pop dents out. You can go on there's guys who are pros at this, and they go on the backside with a special tool, and they can push it back out. Keying is the worst thing. If you go all the way through the paint,
if you
down to the
score
metal,
it, yeah,
that's the worst thing you could do to my car, because now I have to have it repainted, and that's thousands of dollars. Even if it's just a quarter pound, it's going to be $800 or something.
That's true.
But if you break my window, it's like, let's get some new windows. And
right.
you can call a number and they'll come do that at your house. That's
Please make it a front one. They're always due for replacement anyway.
Please do.
It's always an upgrade, right? Like every time I get this like big spider web of a damage on the front from a rock and then replace it, it's like, I should have done this 2 years ago. This is great.
I couldn't relate to that
just getting
more.
A fresh windshield.
Yeah,
you were with me, I think, Woody, when we were out by Memphis, did that special forces thing, and that rock fucking cracked my window.
Mm-hmm.
I got that replaced last year.
Wow. But I bet you loved it. I bet I should have done this.
Like, why didn't I just? Because it's like you call I don't know, Safe Auto Glass,
sure,
or whatever.
Yeah, Safe Light Repair, Safe Light
Replace, and they just show the fuck up. And one man has this like suction cuppy, jacky up thing, and he just knocked it out.
And they do it in your driveway. It's great. Yeah. Like to me, one of the pain in the ass is like taking your car there, and then you don't have a car, so maybe you need to schedule a ride or manage somehow. You're in Uberville, but I'm not. I would need maybe Jackie to help me out. But if they come to my driveway and just handle it, while I'm surfing the web,
that's great.
That's great.
Slashing a tire wouldn't be all that bad either. I mean, it wouldn't be good.
Slashing a tire would be annoying because then you have to get it towed. And I don't trust that wouldn't be that bad. But you're right.
I'm a man, so I would just put the spare on. But I hear you.
I have dainty gamer hands. I've changed 2 flat tires in my life. Both went fine. if I could not do that again, I'd prefer to.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I've got the proper impact wrench for it. Like it would be no trouble at all. Yeah.
I'd be ready to go on that one. But the problem would be like, what if your tires have 30,000 miles on them? You can't just buy one brand new tire now. Now you have to get an early tire replacement all the way around. And my tires are expensive.
The Coopers.
Yeah.
They're not.
I'm fucking with you.
I'll never forget that. You can't even afford the Cooper's wings. Get out of here. Coopers.
Callback for the old fans.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never actually vandalized somebody's car, but I've definitely had that thought process too. Like it reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where George sees the guy parked in the handicap spot. He's like, "I'm gonna spit on it," and Jerry's like, "Yeah, I think you should." And he's like, "I will do it." And he like walks right up to it, like leans over to spit, and the owner walks up and he just goes, "Nice car, nice car." And the guy's like, "Yeah, thanks," and just gets in and drives away. But I've never done that. It seems like a cowardly thing to do, even if you do have a good reason to do it.
Yeah, they're not even there to defend. It's any like defacing any property, especially when the person's not there. It's just kind of like, well, what risk did you take to do that? None
at all. I guess that you're just thinking like he's gonna be so mad when he sees this. He's gonna feel what I felt when he cut me off in traffic.
Yeah, I don't get road rage. I just kind of, I don't know. It takes a lot of effort to be mad. I very rarely get actually angry at people who cut me off. It's just like, what are you doing?
Same. Yeah. When I see it, I'm just like, what was that? you
this guy.
Is that your move? Okay.
Do I have time to tell a small story about a car fucking?
Of course.
Only the show were longer.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing but time.
So a few years ago, I actually had I bought a Hellcat, Dodge Challenger Hellcat, and
nice.
One of the reasons I got rid of it was because it got way too much attention. I'm more of an introvert. I'm more of a keep to myself guy. I got it like just because I wanted it, not to like show off. And I'm heading into a Walmart one night, and I hear this weird noise kind of in the distance. It's about, I think it's the 4th of July. Yeah, 4th of July. Around 11 o'clock p.m. EST. I'm walking in. I park at Walmart. I walk in, and I hear this like distant like noise. I'm thinking like that's a weird fucking bird to be out at 11 o'clock, And I keep walking in, and I keep hearing it. And right when I get to the door, I hear it in like its full, I guess, volume, and I hear it's someone in the parking lot somewhere shouting Hellcat, but they're shouting like Hellcat, like that. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I go into the store and I grab like a jug of water or something. I think I'd been drinking and I was trying to get some fluid in me because it was hot as shit. And I come back out with the water, and he's literally like, he looked like he was fucking it. He looked like the guy was there, and he looked like he was like fucking the hood almost. Nice. He's taking a selfie while he's doing it. I walk out and I see him and I stop. I'm like, what the fuck? And he looks straight at me, still like I think he was recording a video or something. And he just looks straight at me, dead on, and just goes, and then proceeds to scurry away, very chimp-like, very ape-like. Proceeds to kind of scurry away. As God is my witness, this happened. A few months later, I'm like, this isn't worth it, and I sold it.
Just one guy got you off the wagon.
I'm like, this is too much. This is way too much. So,
that's hilarious.
Oh, that's a great story.
He had to be on
me.
meth. He had to be on meth or something, some sort of drug.
That was me.
But,
I admit.
yeah.
I was enamored. It's a nice car.
It's a Hellcat. What are you gonna do?
Hellcat.
I got home, and as soon as I got home, I walked inside and I was like, wait a minute. And I go back out and I'm checking for fucking fluids like on the car. I swear to God. Like I didn't know if he licked it or actually did something to it.
Speaking of retarded, when I went to go see Lord of the Rings, when I went to go see Lord of the Rings, it was in theaters, and I was so excited to see it. I think I was like 8th grade, maybe 8th grade. It came out in 98,
like 99, I think. Yeah.
Okay, 98, 99. So that's 8th grade, and I was with my aunt, and like she's kind of like a hippie, and like I was just like, oh, I want to get high to go see it, and she like gave me like a little joint because she knew I was gonna be alone for the day. She had shit to do. My cousin was doing shit, so I got really high, and I went to the theater, and it was like a matinee, and like the movie had been out for a while now, and like no one had wanted to see it, so we were finally going. I was going to see it alone, and I'm walking down the aisle, and no one's in the theater, and I go and I like sit down like 5th row, and like in the middle, like it's like the perfect seat. And I like look to my right, and I see this like big mentally challenged person, which he probably looked at me and thought the same thing.
Yeah, but you give off that aura.
Yeah. And I was definitely emanating it now because I was stoned. So I was like,
yeah, cross-eyed.
Yeah, and I like looking at him, and I look, and he comes in, and he's like on the level, like this level, like his hat is like,
yeah,
like the hat's like
barely on. Yeah,
someone put it on him. Someone put it on him. He didn't put it on even, and like. He was just like jogging pants that are his favorite pants, like fluorescent fanny pack that he'll scream if you touch it. And he's like coming down. He's coming down the aisle here, and like
barreling down the aisle.
yeah. Like, and me too. He looked like me, how I did when I was stoned, and I was like, and like he's coming down, and I'm looking at him. And all I'm thinking is like, it could have been anyone. I would have been like, don't come here, don't come here, don't come here, don't come here. And he like comes to the aisle, and he hasn't seen me yet. And he like turns in the aisle and takes a step, but I like focused all the power I had into like scaring him away. Like he turned and like my bloodshot stoned eyes. I was like, and he was like duh, 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 and he saw me, he was like and he like stepped back and went back a row and just sat there. And I know this guy, I know his type, because I am like that too, to an extent. I was in the optimal seating, and he wanted that. And if I didn't look at him like that, he would have sat next to me, because that's the second best. And he would have done that not thinking, even though we were in a theater by ourselves, which one time I did sit in the optimal seating, and a mentally challenged person did sit right next to me, but it was a full theater. So like we had no choice. We're right next to each other. And the craziest thing that happened, also once again, I'm super high, but this happened like 3 years ago. This was like Fast and the Furious 15 or whatever. So it was pretty recent. And I'm like sitting in the theater, and I'm looking at the screen, and like something very funny happens that I thought was very funny. It was a very subtle, nuanced joke that just happened to that I found very funny, but not really anyone else in the theater thought it was funny. But it happened, and this mentally challenged guy sitting next to me, the stranger, and it happened, and I was like, and he was next to me, and I guess he thought it was funny too, and happy that I enjoyed it. And he was like, he looked at me, and I was next to him, and I was like, I was like scared, like that wasn't a laugh I shared with you, but like it was like to him, I was like, and he was like, like in my face,
like patting you on the back.
Yeah,
that's honestly, that is so sweet. Like
it was.
He's trying to share a social laugh with someone who enjoys something that he does. That's sweet.
And you know what?
That.
Like I was like professionally an integration aide for many years. I worked with mentally challenged kids, and like, you know, I volunteered that for years. Like, you know, I was probably like, they're my people. That's me out there. Every single one of them. And like, so I'd like volunteer. Like, so like if I was prepared, I would be embracing. It scared the shit out of me. He was like in my space. Like he was like, and I was like, I was actually like, also I had to tell you, like I was high, like super high. Yeah. It's like, I was like already like in a place, but fucking, another. I'm
narrowly
so sorry.
Escaped.
I'm so sorry to hit you guys with like a retard hat trick of a story here.
Just keep going.
Oh, I've got a retard story after yours.
Okay.
3 hours.
My buddy Amir,
yeah.
my buddy Amir, God bless him, chef of Epic Mealtime. He's a genius guy. You know, like he's just very like smart sometimes, but he's also like, if you ever watch the videos and you know, you'd met him, Kyle, he's like fucking just crazy retarded person. Like he's just fucking crazy. Like he's so insane. People would meet him and be like, "What's wrong with this guy?" And I'm like, "He's retarded." Me too.
I didn't notice anything. I thought he was fine.
Yeah, he's just like there's a look in his eyes and there's a thing about him.
Was he there for the Star Wars thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Maybe he was just, you saw him where he had like a set thing of tasks to perform, and he loves tasks and a maintained schedule. That's exactly it. Had we shifted something, he would have been like, ah! No, I'm kidding. Not like that, but like he is just that type. And I remember one time he got us tickets. Like he's like type like he got us tickets to a movie in advance, got us our seats. He's waiting there like 3 hours, like it's the airport. He's chilling there, and then we come, all of his buddies, and there's a guy there that he always tries to race to beat because that guy who's fully retarded has wants to get the optimal seating, but Amir wants the optimal seating, and
Wait, they know each other.
Well, they're at every big premiere, like
the same social worker.
Like Amir will be like, my fucking nemesis got optimal seating in Top Gun. He was there before me. I can't believe it. If there was one movie I wanted optimal seating, it was Top Gun. And then it'd be like Jurassic World. I fucking had his ass, and he came with a friend too. Fuck them both. But like they have an ongoing beef.
It's a
where,
rivalry.
Like, yeah. In my head, I think they're low key best friends. He just doesn't know it. But so this guy who's retarded, who knows Amir is retarded too, because he sees him doing the retard movie thing where he's got to get the seat and he's got to be there for that optimal seating. Like, if he's So this retard's been watching Amir, and he sees him, and he knows this is like my retarded brother, you know. Then he sees like me and all my buddies come in, and now that other retard's confused because he's like, "What?" Because we're seeing Amir, we're dapping him up, and this guy's like, "Huh? How did you?" A fellow retarded brother managed to round up a squad of fucking normies like that, you know? So I'm standing with Amir, and I was like, Amir, I'm like, that retard over there is really checking you out. He's like, which? And I'm like, don't, you know who?
You know, the one you have a rivalry with.
Yeah, recognize Reet, the one that's looking at you right now that knows you're retarded. And, you know, and Amir's like, I didn't even see it. And now I'm watching Amir from like a distance here. I get my popcorn, I stand back, and I'm watching Amir, and I see now that I'm away and Amir's alone, this guy's like, I'm gonna roll up on this dude, and I'm gonna ask him like, what are the secrets, you know? And so this like retarded guy starts to approach Amir, who's also a retarded guy, and now Amir, like, he's been doing the long con. He thinks he has us convinced that we don't think he's retarded when we know he is. And so like Amir doesn't want to fuck that up, I guess, or whatever it is. But this retarded guy like walks up to Amir, like, yeah, and Amir, he didn't actually do this, what I'm about to demonstrate. It was something different, but this encapsulates it perfectly. Amir, as he came close, Amir was kind of like and that guy was like, oh shit, and like backed away. Like it was like, don't fuck this up for me. And I saw the guy wanted to know, like, yo, how do you hold a conversation with these guys? Like, why don't they know you're like, you keep it a secret? Are you upfront about it or what, you know?
Yeah. He's in the closet. He's in the play chest.
Well, and that's the same guy that laughed with me, by the way. That's the same guy that sat next to me because I had optimal seating. No, I had optimal seating with Amir, so he ended up next to me because that's the second most optimal seat. It just he happens to be part of both of these stories.
Is there one theater in Canada?
How
are you guys?
I will tell you something.
Showtime for every movie.
If you're this type of person, you want the best.
You want the best seat
in Montreal. There happens to be an IMAX theater that is one of the newest IMAX theaters in all of Canada. So, like, yeah, I'm pretty normal, bro. I'll go see the fucking movie here. That's it. Amir will drive like an extra 35 minutes to get the IMAX experience because like the screen is 20% bigger. And like that's okay, you know, I'm okay with that.
Although that the field trip to the aquarium with the special ed class where that girl shit herself, that was a fun field trip. That's not even a bad field trip.
That's the type of thing I would call up a friend and be like, I can't believe you were sick today, bro. Shelly, Shelly, she shot herself. In front
Her
of
name was
everyone.
Michelle, I think.
Michelle.
So close.
Shelly.
I had a feeling.
So my mom taught special ed.
Recognize Reet.
My mom taught special ed, and she was like, Kyle, do you want to tag along with my group of special ed students to go to the aquarium today? And third grade me had no like social awareness, and I was like, the aquarium,
also.
you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. And so I just tagged along with all the retarded kids.
That's awesome.
You have no. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
My favorite thing.
No, go ahead.
There's no part of you at all, that looks back and you were like, was I retarded too?
Yeah, was it? Did they take me there because I was supposed to be on the retarded field trip, and that was how they broke it to me?
I was a retard. I was retarded. I did in the first grade when everyone was like learning like how to write out all the letters of the alphabet. Miss Monroe would come, and she took me, Newton, and Douglas. And Newton was like 5 years older than us for sure in first grade. Douglas was like, even though I didn't have the word for it, I was like, this kid's retarded. Like, I don't know what I said then, but
you
I
manifested that word like
it's
goofy.
Yeah.
It's retarded.
And sometimes, like, I did things, and I was like, I'm retarded. But I had the Miss Monroe would come, and I'd be like, peace, bitches, to like everyone that my buddies over there, because they're gonna be writing the words. And I would go with Douglas and Newton. We would like roll clay balls, and she'd be like, smooth out the cracks, and I'd smooth it out. And I was just like, you guys are stupid. Like, my life is so much better than yours. And then at the end of the first grade, I remember the teacher being like, and this was really fucked up. This is like 1992, but it's just fucked up. And I remember it so clearly. She goes, everyone passed except for Douglas and Newton. And I was like, oh my God. I thought that I would have had to repeat grade 1 because I was everywhere with Douglas and Newton. When Douglas and Newton did something, I was there with them. They're rolling clay balls. I'm there with them. An adult is wiping their ass for them. I'm there with them.
You're holding the roll.
Like every step of the way. And so I thought, and when, like, as I got older, I mean, like, you know, I look back and I was like, I guess I was kind of retarded at the beginning.
You were borderline. They didn't know. They didn't know which path you were going to take.
Exactly. Maybe they were doing like they were running the litmus test on you, the aquarium retard litmus test. They're like, bring him too.
Dude, did he shit himself? No. Clean drawers. All right. 4th grade it is. The rest of you. Go to the closet.
It is wild how similar. I've mentioned on the show before, so I'll be quick. But
no, we're all retards.
I was
not all of us.
I was also in retard reading in kindergarten.
Reading.
Yeah, it was me. It was me, Joe, and Travis. And Miss Huffman would say, "It's time for reading. Taylor, Joe, and Travis go to the Miss whoever." And then we would go over there, and exactly the same. The reason I got in trouble is because I figured out I memorized like Susie's Red Bike instead of learning what letters did. And then she gave me a different book one day and I started reciting Susie's Red Bike and she busted me. And I remember thinking, like, even in my head at 5, like, you're going to have to learn this eventually. Like, you can't fake it till you make it your whole life. And so I got taken over there and we didn't have clay balls, but it would be the easiest shit ever. It'd be like, Joe, what's wrong with this sentence? And it'd be like, dog, no eat, no eat. And then he'd be like, it should say dog not hungry. And then he'd be like, no, close, like Taylor. And he'd be like, the dog is not hungry right now. And then they'd be like, that's perfectly structured. Here's a Tootsie Roll. And I'm like, dude, I'm banging on all cylinders here. Because next to Travis and Joe, I was fucking Steph Curry, swish, 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 didn't miss, constant aces, high fives from the teacher. I'm breaking the curve in the retard reading course. And then I got pulled out of it and they put me back in the regular class before the end of kindergarten. That's so funny that we were all retarded.
Oh, dude. My story is a little bit different. I was in high school and I met my best friend this way. Shout out Samantha if you're watching, listening, whatever. But she just kind of saw me in the halls in high school, and she's like, "Oh, that kid's kind of cute. I think I'm going to try to talk to him." But then, after like a couple days of seeing me in the hall, she said that she thought I was retarded, so she didn't talk to me. And I said, "Like, what?" Well, glad you asked. Me and my friends, we were just, I don't even know how to describe it, just terrible people. So we would go into, for example, like the restroom, and we just start screeching like pterodactyls. We would just walk around making awful noises like that.
I have an extremely loud scream. It sounds like I could sound like literally like in a horror movie, like a woman screaming at the top of her lungs.
Oh, like
and I used to walk into the school bathroom,
we all
scream as loud as I could.
It's funny, yeah.
And then I'd walk out normally, like nothing happened, and I didn't even.
That's what I would do.
And I'd walk and do my thing while everyone's like looking at the door, like, "What the fuck happened in there?"
Me and my buddy Brandon would walk in. We would sometimes get in a stall with somebody in the middle taking a shit and just start pterodactyl screaming on both sides while this person's taking a shit. We would walk out and then we'd start making other noises, and she's just like, that kid's retarded. And then like after a couple weeks, somebody had asked about me, or she asked about me, and they're just like, no, he's not retarded. He's in like advanced English. Like, what are you talking about? He's just autistic or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's the only guy in the world who writes some shit on the wall but uses semicolons.
Yeah, he was reciting Shakespeare in there with a turd in his
two
hand,
independent clauses.
Listen, I don't want to put you on the spot, and it's totally not a big deal. It's like not even important, but you look like you still have that pterodactyl screech.
I still want to do it in public.
I mean, you're more than
would you bang one out for us
where somebody will hear it?
I mean, no pressure. You don't even have to.
I'd like to see personally who has the better screech.
Okay.
People are going to hate
have
this.
Scream.
People are going to crash to this.
I disagree. People are out there like, are they going to do it?
They're turning their volume up right now.
People love that in podcasts when people randomly scream.
Well, it won't be random. I'm calling for it.
But what's really interesting, I think, is that you're from Iran. Is that right? And then you immigrated to Iraq for a while?
Actually, the other way around.
Okay.
I'm
Interesting.
Iraqi. My mother and father are Iraqis. But they migrated to Iran in the 90s, running away from Saddam's regime. That was after my family. So my parents went to Iran, and then I was born. And in 2003, when the regime went away and America liberated Iraq,
a little freedom.
You're welcome, by the way.
You're welcome. Free Americans, thank you. They liberated Iraq. We went back against the will of my father, because my father at the time was in Australia, trying to secure a little gathering for us there. So that also ruined his plans to go there, because he was planning on us coming from Iran. So we went back to Iraq and lived there from 2003 to 2010, and then we migrated to Europe finally.
How old are you? So how old were you?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a
migration?
lot of history for someone who's 13 years old.
I took it a lot. I'm 27, actually. I'm almost 27.
Okay. So
I was born in, 26. I was born in almost 27. I was born in 1991 in Iran. But yeah, I do look young. My brother always gets the thing. People tell him that he looks older than me, and I look younger than him. So I do get that a lot. I do look young. So I guess that's a good thing.
It is. So
anyway,
that is an incredible amount of it's almost hard with something like this to even ask a question, because I am so removed from it and I have no idea of any of the happenings. What are just you said you were a translator for a while there. How old were you when you were doing that, and what was that like? Was that for U.S. forces or just?
Yeah, so that's also another crazy story. In 2004, maybe beginning of 2005. The dates are kind of blurry for me at the moment, but in beginning of 2005, let's say, I used to live with my aunt, with my family, which we were all living in there, and that was behind a very big shrine mosque, Al Sahla. It's called in Najaf, Al Kufa. You guys all know it, of course.
Of course.
And
obviously,
yeah,
that's the tune.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the militia, Al Mahdi militia, that were insurgents following Muqtada Sadr, which were militia in the south controlling the region. At the time, the coalition decided that the Spanish and Italian forces and some Polish forces would control that region because it was the most stable. And Baghdad and Tikrit and all those unstable regions would go to U.S. troops, UK, and other forces. Anyway, so those militias had a lot of control on the region. And I used to go there a lot with my parents, and they heard me once speaking Farsi, which is Iran's language, which I was, of course, born and raised there. I speak Farsi as fluently as I speak Arabic. And they just asked me. I was like 14 or 15 years old, and they were like, hey, would you mind translating for us? So I went ahead, translated for a few people.
Well, hang on. Wait a minute. Wait. Let's skip over that.
Labor laws.
Hang on a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
So you're 14 years old, and what nationality were
15,
these?
Maybe.
Okay. What
Iraqis,
nationality were these guys? Oh. So
Yeah.
were these Iraqi soldiers who asked you?
No,
to do
not
this?
soldiers, but insurgents, a militia that were used to secure shrines.
Okay.
And places that are public that could be eventually targeted for car bombing or terrorist attack and stuff.
Okay.
So they would search people that would try to enter the shrine, and basically patting them down and all that. So basically, I used to stand there. Well, at the start, I translated for a few people, and the need for a translator kept coming up. So they just, when they saw me again, they were like, "Hey, you should come on, like sort of a part-time thing."
How much does a job like this pay when you're 14 years old?
It didn't pay anything at the beginning.
Fuck! So you're
Wow.
So
I was
I want to picture this. So you're
Are you giving
standing
goods or
outside-
services?
You and this military guy are standing outside of like a site that you're trying to protect from someone potentially walking in with a bomb. You're the translator, so you're standing right next to the guy who's like the point man to stop the bomb, right? You're in just as much danger as he is, right? Or do you get get go get behind some sandbags until they need you?
No. As fun as that might sound, like I've been in a lot of shitty situations with attacks and stuff, which we'll get to later, hopefully. But that job at the time was pretty much like very safe job. Like there weren't the worst thing we stopped was an Iranian. One of the reasons, actually, let me interrupt myself. One of the reasons they needed a Persian translator was because a lot of Iranians started coming in as pilgrims. My English is failing me right now. Anyway,
No, it's really
so
good.
as yeah, I
speak
mean,
any
it's,
Farsi.
yeah, well, I mean, it's a bit out of practice, but I'm trying. So these pilgrims came after 2003 because they had a ban by Saddam, so they weren't allowed. But after Saddam went away, of course, the borders were open and they started coming in. So the need for a translator arose. That's the first thing. So after I started working there, the worst thing we had, I think, was a couple of Iranians trying to smuggle a little bit of hash in their pockets, drugs, like that kind of stuff.
What's
That's
the
worst
punishment
thing.
for that? Like when they found out that they had hash on them, was it like hey, you give us that hash and you move along, or was it like, oh, you've done fucked up?
They were pulled apart by 4 camels.
Yeah, well, funny story about that. The first time we found a bit of hash on someone, they were searching them, patting them down, and then I was just standing there talking to the guys anyway. So they searched this guy, they open his wallet, and they have like little thing this big, and it looks brown. I mean, we don't know what hash is, what weed is, all those kind of drugs. We've heard about them, but we don't know how they look, how they smell, how they taste. So the security guy is like, "What the hell is this?" And he's like, "His medicine." So our boss comes around from the. He's like, "Oh wait! I've heard about this. This is hash actually." And in Najaf, which is about 50 kilometers away.
Heard about
what
it.
a narc.
They have heard about it in the shrine that people have been bringing this in, and this is kind of a sort of a drug that is banned. So he's like, wait a second, give it to me. And he's inspecting the shrine to find out what it is. So he's like, I don't know. And he looks at me and then he's like, here, give it a taste. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not sure I should do this. Anyway, so I, like the dumbass I am, I open it up and then split it in half like this big. I split it in half and put the whole thing in my mouth. And it started really stupid decision.
Anything.
Yep. And I start like feeling all kind of weird things. Like
What does
in my
that
mouth,
do? Can
as
you
far as
eat pot?
taste. I don't know
makes
what
you
it
feel
was.
shitty.
They call it hash in our country. I don't know what it is, how it's
So what
classified.
hash is when they take the pollen from like the marijuana bud, like you've got lots of buds of marijuana, and the way I've seen it made is like they use their bare hands to like stroke the plants, and you're getting all that pollen, that sticky pollen stuck to your hands, and they do this until they've got like a film of it on them, and they take like a butter knife and they scrape it off, and you've got sort of this sort of waxy dark
Yeah, exactly.
and then
It
they
is
press it into bars.
Yeah.
And
So I
what
put it in
happens
my
if you
mouth.
eat it?
And I start chewing, and well, I mean, I started feeling like a burn. I mean, it was like 15 years ago, but I bought new shoes and new pants before, like a week ago when I started this job. So I start chewing, and everyone's laughing at me, of course, the security guards. And I'm like, at once, I just spit it out. I wait 5 seconds, and I just vomit on my shoes and my new pants. It was a shitty day at the job. Anyway. So they take this guy and they put him in a little holding cell, which was just a room people used to study in the year 1800 or something like that. Really old shrines with old rooms and old doors. Basically, push the door and the lock breaks. So it wasn't any any cell or anything. But I mean, they put him in there. They waited for the police. Iraqi police came over and they just stick him with him. I don't know what happens to them. Possibly.
So when you were working as a translator,
yeah,
did you have like neighbors or like distant neighbors who were like angry at you for cooperating with the Americans or the Italians or whatever?
Cooperation with the Americans came at a later date. In 2000, and maybe you've heard of this, the Battle of Najaf.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the major battles that took place against the insurgents of the south, the Jaish al-Mahdi. And I could actually might be able to find some coordinates for you for where this all exactly happened if you want that.
No, it's good. Just
anyway,
what year was this? So how old were you?
2005. So I was basically 15. And I just started working for them like about 2 months or something. And the activity of these insurgents, Jaish al-Mahdi, which I worked for as a translator, was like very high. They started enforcing some new laws and other stuff, which a lot of people weren't happy with. The thing that angered the coalition forces was the fact that they started fighting Americans, trying to take secure areas. Anyway, so a command came from America or something, and basically it said all Polish, Spanish, and Italian forces may evacuate, and U.S. military will take over that city, which was my city. So at that shrine, one of the hardest battles that took place was in my backyard. So that's another very, very, like, it's kind of hard to talk about. I mean, there was a lot of scary moments in our lives. I mean,
and this battle was at that same age for you, right around 2005 there?
2005, It was Battle of Najaf. So anyway, the Americans come in, a lot of resistance because the leader of Jaish al-Mahdi told all of his insurgents, Jaish al-Mahdi, he was Muqtada al-Sadr, maybe you've heard of him, the asshole with the thing, pretty popular. He was on CNN like every other week at the time, even lately. Anyway, so battle goes down and we're holed up in the corner of our house, and tanks coming through the house through our backyard, which was actually our front yard, because the engineers that structured those houses are pretty much dumbasses. They built one room and then a room next to it and then another room next to it, and then the backyard would be basically in front of it, and the door would be at the side, not at the front. So it's a pretty weird design.
It is odd.
Yeah, so we were at the end of the house, like at the farthest room, and at the back, like the wall that we faced was pretty much our neighbor that also had the exact same structure of the house, except the other way around. Anyway, so tanks were coming in, and like the ground is shaking, bullets flying everywhere. 2 days, and then everything settles down. Americans come door to door telling us to come out and be searched, and we got searched and all that, and then basically
I feel like we spent more time on the door than the actual war here. So there's bullets flying, there's tanks moving in.
Yeah.
Like, what was that part all about? Like it.
Well, I mean, there isn't much to it. We basically just cowered like all the other families. I mean, I was young and my father wasn't there.
Stayed inside, and you could hear bullets like zipping by.
Yeah, bullets, explosions. It was intense. We didn't just hear them. It was like we were just right there, and the wall that was like the wall of our backyard was actually broken down by a tank because it hit it, and yeah, it was pretty intense.
How long did it last? Or how long, I guess, were you holed up in your house there for the whole 2 days?
Yeah, we were holed up 2 days. Well, thankfully we had food and all that stuff. My cousin, actually, which was my aunt's house, had an AK, and he was like holding it by himself. And I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" I didn't say anything, obviously, but my aunt was like, "You dumbass! If the Americans come in, the first one they shoot is you. Why the hell do you have it at your side? It's not gonna help you." I was like, "Maybe some insurgents will try to hide in our house. I'm not gonna let them. American will kill us." Anyway, so so that happened, and that went on. The next thing that I remember happening was like just life going on, and a couple of weeks later,
real quick, like as the battle was raging and everything, do you remember, like, obviously fear's the number one thing, but as far as like anger at the sides of the battle, were you just like, what was that mentality? Like, oh, these fucking Americans, or like, oh, both of these fucking people, or like, what were you thinking as far as just the direction? I know you were young at 15.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, I was 15 at the moment. I didn't really have a specifically orientate my political opinion or anything. But at the moment, I feel differently, of course. But at that time, I was just scared and with my family, just waiting to see what happens. That was it. Yeah, but so after that, a few weeks ago, we kept like life went on, and then with my family, we went to visit the shrine to just go pray and stuff. And when we went in, a lot of the people obviously changed, but some of the people that worked for militia after surrendering, the American agreed to keep. So the commander that used to be kind of my boss, like I mean, when I say commander, it sounds like a military commander, but he was just a dumbass that had control of the search point that was situated right at the shrine. So he was still there, and he was like, "You should come back because we still have a lot of Iranians coming in after the battle. Maybe next week's, hopefully, in the coming weeks, hopefully." So
still no pay though, right?
Yeah. At that point, after the second time I came back with them, they did start to pay me.
How much? I need to know, like exactly how much, because
that's too dangerous of a job to not get paid a decent amount.
Yeah. Like you should be getting paid like those fucking crab fishermen on like Deadliest Catch, right? There should be like a voiceover as you like translate and check papers, like Ahmed is making more money this week than most Americans will make in a year. But instead, like what are you actually making?
I did make bank. So let's see. As far as numbers go, I made the first 2 months, I made 15,000 dinari, which is about $14.
Oh shit!
$14.
That's gonna make it rain.
I'm always bamboozled by foreign currencies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
God damn! I'm such a fool. I don't know why I thought I'm like 15 grand. This motherfucker had me going. Oh, nope, $14.
Yeah,
couple of foot long subs.
I mean, you got to think. I was young and I didn't have anything.
Or a little
else
hash.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, that too. But
You get that for
14,000 dinari, I could have bought like shoes, a few books for my school, and new clothes. So it was helpful. I mean, I didn't do much. I just went there 2 hours a day. It wasn't like a 9 to 5. Yeah, I mean the danger, of course. But
yeah,
after the Americans came, we were hoping there would be no more danger. So yeah, that's that.
You're welcome again.
How did that pan out?
Thank you very much. The American dollar felt good. Yeah. So after that, Americans came, of course, I think at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 4 o'clock in the midday, and they just came check around. They go into the shrine, even though a lot of people were angry about that because they were quote unquote not Muslims.
What happened when they came, like when you guys were in your house and they came to your house? Was it after the battle that you left and then the Americans found you, or did they actually break into your house?
No, they didn't break into the house. They just knocked on the door really, really hard and shouted, "If your families come out, hands on your head, no weapons, no movement." So we all came out like the family that we are, and we stood there. Americans started coming in. We went in the house, take a really quick look, and they just saw women and stuff. They didn't even search us, so they just left.
Did they didn't find your cousin's AK either, eh?
Even if they have found it, everyone had an AK there. So
I assumed so.
Yeah, Kyle's got a couple in
a lot of
frame.
people had. Yeah, he had a couple of AKs under the cabin, but they didn't search very well. They weren't searching for AKs; they were searching more for people that were hiding, or anyway, from the insurgencies that were hiding, and big weapons, possibly RPGs and stuff. Those were the things that they were looking for, because RPGs played a big role in that battle. Yeah, lots of casualties from the insurgent side.
Wow.
So 2 years of Battle of Najaf, and I believe 40 American soldiers died, and 4,000 or something, or 3,000 insurgents died. So that shows the effectiveness of your military.
Of tanks. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the insurgents also had a lot of hardware. They had a lot of good Hummers and big trucks, shielded trucks, I remember. But I mean, of course, it didn't come close to the.
Yeah, there was I don't want to get too specific, but there's a member of my family who was in the first Iraq War, and he had a lot of like mixed feelings and stress afterwards about how lopsided it was. Like there was some guilt because he was a tank commander, and they just like rolled the fuck through the Iraqi tanks and stuff, and after the fact, it was something he had to cope with.
That's an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about that, of being like, oh, yeah, we were in the war and we did what we had to do, but I was in a tank that they gave me and said, hey, drive this as your job as a tank commander. In this war, it just happens to be an invincible magic ship that you can just drive around. Like,
oh yeah, I
don't
mean, in
know.
these battles that happened, the only problem Americans faced were the numbers. I mean, these insurgents would scatter into neighborhoods, and in every house there would be 5 or 4 of them. And it doesn't matter what you have. Is it the drone? Is it the tank? I mean, you will get ambushed, and it's a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to clean out those neighborhoods. So that was challenge number 1, just the numbers and how they were scattered. And obviously urban warfare. I mean, it was months before the main battle of the Najaf ended. The battle that we experienced in Kufa, which is like a little. It's a really small town right next to Najaf. Pretty important as far as position. It's right on the Euphrates, and that took 2 days. But the Battle of Najaf, the main Battle of Najaf, took 2 months or something.
For the insurgents that were there, you're talking about them. Was it common for them to have to like break into someone's house and be like, "You're gonna hide us here," or did they usually have enough people who were on their side that they could go find somewhere, or was it kind of a fear that they would show up and harass you?
I couldn't answer that, man. I'm sorry, but I have no idea. Maybe, but I've never heard of that or never seen it, so I don't know. But it is possible, obviously. I mean, they used a lot of shitty tactics, even though it's against all their mottos and they're Islamic, and you know how it goes. These insurgents, when it comes to it, if it's life or death, they will do anything. Doesn't matter if it's against their ideologies or instruction of their leader or whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put it past them.
Man, that is intense.
Yeah. And so I didn't tell you about when I met with a few of the soldiers that they came to you. They used
the
to
American soldiers or the insurgents?
Yeah,
okay.
The Americans. After the whole battle, we went to the mosque one day, and I started talking to the my old boss. And Americans came in and they started talking to people and stuff, just kind of seeing how the searching and the patting down goes on. There wasn't much to do. So they talked to me, and at the time I was watching a lot of English movies and stuff, and I still have my DVD collection. I used to buy 10 DVDs a day, which were basically I don't know, 1,000 dinari, like 90 cent, which is like basically next to nothing for a movie. So I spent all my money just buying DVDs of shows. Like I remember Lost and 24 were big at the time. So those were my favorite. Yeah, exactly. That's really weird, but I really love that show. Anyway, at the time. So I have a lot of DVDs, and I picked up a lot of language from that. So it was my third language. So it was pretty impressive for these guys. So they were like, so you speak Arabic fluently and a bit of English that could be better, but also Persian that we very much need because of all the pilgrims that are coming in. So the American soldier is like, if you come tomorrow, we will take you to the checkpoint at the next to your neighborhood. We need a few translators there. So you got to stand there for 5 or 6 hours. And we'll pay you, of course, $100. And I'm like, oh my God, $100? Are you serious? So that was my biggest payday as a translator. So the next day I came over and they picked me up and I went there and they gave me a vest and I standed there and basically didn't translate anything, absolutely nothing. Just talked to the soldiers in the first day. A few weeks later, after the combat, the dust settled down, a lot of pilgrims started coming in. A lot of people started getting arrested. I mean, Iranians really hate Americans, even the pilgrims. Yeah. So anyway, a lot of translating was needed. So I basically I was on my toes. My English was very weak at the time, so I was barely speaking. And yeah, so that was also a big challenge for me. So I did that for a couple of months, and I think.
What was the attitude of the soldiers like when you were kind of getting to know them and talk to them?
The best. One of the funnest thing I've done, in this whole shitty situation, was translating for those soldiers. They were telling me all about the American life and how I should go to America since I'm learning and I'm smart enough and this and that. They were motivating me to do all kind of things. So I used to tell them I would really love to go to study in America or maybe in Europe or wherever. And they would motivate me and they would you work here 6 months on this salary, you'll be able to save up a bit of money. You should save up in this and that. And so they were really cool guys. Really cool guys. I didn't really have bad experience with the American soldiers.
That's good. You said it was annoying dealing with how much the Iranians hated the Americans, even the Pilgrims. What do you mean by that? Like they just?
Yeah, I mean they wouldn't be wanna touched. That's number one, which patting down becomes really challenging. So that's why they called a few guys from the mosque, from the old insurgencies that they used to, like the checkpoint at the mosque. So they used to pat down so the American basically did respect that, because a lot of Iranians started getting angry and started shouting and this and that, and weapons were pointed at some point, I remember.
Why was
that was
such a big deal about being touched?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't just, I don't know, Iranians. I mean, Iraqis, most of Iraqis, if they would want to search by a soldier, they would just, okay, go ahead, man. No big deal. But I remember a lot of the pilgrims from Iran made a big deal about it. And I used to intervene and come in, speak Farsi, their language, so they would feel a little bit better about it. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's just for security, no big deal, and this and that. But it didn't help. I was like, no, this American dirty peasant will not touch me and this and that. Yeah, I remember a lot of hatred from Iran.
When you translated, did you like tell them straight, like stuff like dirty peasant, or did you like smooth it over?
Oh, absolutely not. I definitely did some.
Say it again.
Because
you did, you did smooth
I
it
was
over,
really
or you didn't? I caught.
Yeah, I mean, I was young. I mean, I was afraid. I remember, like, every time someone would say something that I would feel would offend the other party, I was like, oh my God, how am I going to say that?
You're a terrible translator.
Yeah.
I need to know. Like, if I'm sitting there paying you 80,000 denarii or whatever.
So if they just took a transcript of your translations, they'd be like, this is the friendliest checkpoint that we've ever seen. Like, everybody seems to be getting along. A lot of thank yous and pleases.
It's not that extreme. No, but I mean, a lot of anger was also conveyed by their facial expression and how they start screaming. So I didn't have to translate everything. Anyway, but when there was like a few words thrown at, I wouldn't translate them unless I was asked. I don't actually remember if I have ever done that.
Do you remember like one line or one thing you were told to translate that sticks out in your mind as something that like was like, you're like, oh shit?
Kus Omak comes to mind, which means you motherfucker. But much worse, because in the Western culture, motherfucker is used like a buzzword, and in Arabic, that's like serious shit. So when you say that, like, you're offended, like I fuck your mother or something. So that's the thing that I would never translate or never even dare to translate. So,
oh man, that must be stressful with curse words like. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kyle.
I would want it straight. Like I'd be like, look, if they're saying some crazy shit, I need to fucking know it, because things can escalate here. We're not talking about hurting feelings. We're talking about people dying. You let me know what they're saying over there. Like, you can smooth me over a little bit if I step out of line, but don't you smooth them. I need to know. I need it like warts and all.
Yeah, but it must have been annoying to have to be like, all right, I'm translating this. What I'm about to say is from him. It's from him. Keep in mind, not from me. I think you're great. I'm on your side. All right, like. You're got to be everybody's buddy.
You also have to consider that the fact that it was a checkpoint. It wasn't something official or anything. Exact translations weren't needed. So basically, I had to just tell them what they were saying. In any context would have been it would have been okay. Doesn't matter. I don't always have to be literally translate every single word. So as long as the message gets through.
How did like your day-to-day life, just routine, kind of change up after the Americans showed up?
Yeah, so after the Americans showed up, there was still a lot of what do you call it? Like still a lot of movement from the insurgents. So they were still there, obviously, but they got a ceasefire order from their leader.
Was it something like you were being stopped and checked more often, or you'd go outside and be like, oh, look, a Humvee and a bunch of soldiers again, surprise?
No, I mean, we were kind of in our bubble. We didn't go far very much. I used to go to school, go to the thing. I used to go to friends and go home. That was my life for years at that point. But after months later, I mean, a lot of people, like my family, my cousins that were older than me, they were like, you need to stop working for the Americans. It's not safe anymore. So I think I worked 3 months in total. and then I stopped. So I just quit. I told them I had to move and concentrate on my schools, and my finals were coming up, which were actually coming up at the time. So I just quit for that reason. I was kind of afraid.
You think it was the right move at the time to be like, yeah, this is getting a little too hot? Or is it something that looking back, you're like, oh, I probably could have kept doing that a little longer? Made some more Skrilla?
No, it never got hot. To be honest, if I'm honest, it never got hot. Not working for that checkpoint. It never got hot. I mean, heated discussions between a tourist and another salesman or a soldier that was trying to pat down, that was the most extreme thing I witnessed at the time. So it wasn't hot or anything. But I kept hearing from friends and family, they were like, you got to stop from working for the Americans. You never know what happens and this and that. You know how people are. Just fear in general. So it was a messy situation at the time. So you don't want to get it tangled up in something. Yeah.
Sure. I want to circle all the way back around to that bail hearing, because that had to be one of those moments where you're like just on the cusp of victory, and victory is snatched away, and you fall into the jaws of defeat because you were in minimum security, which wasn't fun, but not the worst scenario ever.
I was in medium.
Oh, medium. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then because of the way that bail hearing went down and them doubling your bail essentially, because you went over a $1 million bail, you're automatically upgraded to maximum security. And that's when you got sent to the Roach Motel.
Yeah, and I've been in Towers Jail for a year. I know all the slang. I know the prison walk. So the next day when I woke up in max security, I've got to go to the white table now, the Woods, and they're going to determine now whether they're going to accept me or they're going to smash me. This is max security. They're nearly all in there for murder. There was a few crystal meth chemists. So I walk up to the table, doing the prison walk with all the slang. Like, what up, Wood? What up, Wood? Where did you roll in from, Wood?
Ahoy, hoy.
Towers Jail. They made my bail bond over $1 million, so I got reclassed to max. They're like, what are you in for, Wood? Ecstasy. So they're asking me all these questions, and I'm thinking, I'm fitting in with these guys. They're going to accept me. Then I go back to my room, and hours later, the head of the gang, he comes down with all of his legal paperwork, and he says, I want you to read this for me and tell you if this plea bargain they're offering me is reasonable. So they saw through my act and saw I was an educated person, and I was a resource to them.
That's really funny.
They could tell I knew how to read, so now I'm the professor.
British guy.
A third of the prisoners could not read all right. In max security, I set up a class for the Mexicans, teaching them how to write home in Spanish, because a lot of them worked out in the countryside and they couldn't read and write. Then the Aryan Brotherhood put a green light to have me smashed for helping another race. I had an independent tough guy who was my cellmate at the time, Joe, and he intervened with the gang and they allowed me to keep helping the Mexicans.
Shaun, can you move your mic closer?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That sounds so.
That's awful.
That sounds fucking horrible. But something I want to So you got there, the Aryans approach you in your cell, and then kind of how does that relationship go from there? Like you said, there's no turning them down. You have to kind of play the game. Were there ever times where it was like, hey, you just earned your first swastika tattoo. Come on in. And you're like, no, actually, can I just get they also used an eagle. Let's do a real generic eagle. Can you make it look like the Philadelphia Eagles?
I saw one skinhead. He had a tattoo of Hitler on his chest.
No subtlety.
Zeke Heiling over a gas chamber with Jewish people dying inside the gas chamber. Yeah. Now here's what helped me out.
Intricate.
Here's what helped me out.
Hey, Shaun, can you move your mic a lot closer?
Yeah. Is it going to go over the screen now? Is that okay?
Oh, so much better. My God. Yeah.
All right. So over 100 people arrested with me, including some of my bouncers from the raves I was throwing, including my best friend from my hometown, who is a massive guy. He co-interviews people with me on my YouTube channel called Wildman. He's like the UK Joey Diaz.
Oh, I've seen that guy. Yes, he is the UK Joey Diaz.
his fists are twice the size of mine, and they're just all human teeth marks all over them. He's a good guy to get arrested with. So once the AB guys in Towers Jail found out I was with Wildman and that we were one of the biggest crews in the jail, we had a coexistence with them, and none of our clique got smashed.
Jesus Christ.
In that first year, that was when we were all together.
I think
what was your relation to the guy with the Hitler tattoo? Was he just like, oh no, that's Alan? I think there's some other guy who's like, even Alan goes a little far for us. I mean, Hitler chose a perfectly fine signet for us to use, and he goes for the whole portrait thing. None of us are on board with that. Don't think we're all like. You know.
Let's put it this way: when the head of the whites got moved out of our building, and there was a white boy meeting, and we had to vote on the new head of the whites, I didn't vote for that skinhead. I vote for Marco, who was out of the Italian Mafia. The Italian Mafia took over from the Aryan Brotherhood in that pod, and it was the best we ever had it. Like, these guys were running the show. Outside the jail at night, when we were all locked down, when we were all supposed to be asleep, Marco was outside the jail with the guards, smoking and giving them orders. Whenever we got raided, the guard, he would find out in advance, and anything the guards took, all our bedding and everything, would get all fresh stuff from other guards, would bring it right back to us. He had a legal visit from his girlfriend. In legal visits, the guards can't watch, so his girlfriend would come in as a legal visitor and give him blowjobs in the legal visitation room. Nice. And there was like the least violence ever under Marco's rule. I wrote a whole chapter about it in Hard Time, and it was the best of the time in Towers Jail was when the Italian Mafia were running the show. But the good times never last.
the like meshing between the Italians and the Aryans, what was that like? An alliance because they're both white, or like their own interests? Like, I'm sure they had their own drug interests and stuff, right?
There was an uneasy coexistence that culminated into a full-scale semi-riot at one point, and which ended up with us all getting moved. So the Italians, you know, when people have got it good like that and they're running things, other people get jealous because people have got nothing in prison. Mm-hmm. So the Woods were getting jealous of, you know, how smoothly they were running things and all the perks they were getting. And they were always scheming, and they always had the greater numbers. We had more numbers temporarily, but in the end, Marco got moved. He got sentenced. His next in line took over. He was a Golden Gloves boxer, and he had a lot of fights in a row, and he always won. And then he fought a Rule 11 inmate called Buster Beats. Now, that means a mentally ill person, Rule 11. There was this foul meal that nobody would eat called Red Death, and this guy would just put it in plastic bags and eat it all day long. And he was my cellmate briefly as well. He like took the legs off crickets and mosquitoes and beat them with little rolled up pieces of toilet paper.
I didn't know where I was going. And there was some sort of a Pickle Rick type scenario, but he would just pull the legs off until it's a torso, and then he would beat them with a rolled up.
Yeah, and say, "Good mosquito, you're not going to leave me now," and things like this.
Oh shit!
He had this rap called "Dead Body Hose" about having sex with the corpses of Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and all this stuff, and the prisoners would always make him do it. But anyway, the Golden Gloves boxer, Nick, he ended up in a fight with Buster Beats. Buster Beats, these Rule 11 guys, they've got this crazy strength. He kept like, Marco, the Golden Gloves guy, Nick, just kept beating the shit out of Buster Beats, and he'd say like, I give up. He'd go to leave the cell. Buster Beats would like jump back up, bounce off the wall like Spider-Man, jump on Nick's back. And this went on for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and Nick's like just punch. He's going up against the wall, just punch. I think he's going to kill this guy. And Nick, his hand, he broke his knuckle. His hand swelled up like the size of a grapefruit. Pieces of teeth of both of them had come off. And after that, Nick said, "Look, I'm sick of being the head of the whites." He was sick of fighting all the time.
And he was disillusioned from being the retarded man. He was like, I don't even know what this is all about anymore.
The sad thing was, my people on the outside and Nick's people on the outside, we were trying to help him. We were trying to locate his step parents to try and get him some assistance. So,
oh yeah, they want him back.
He starts a different gang, and he's like, "I know you're not a chomo, but are you a chromo?" And then they start gathering up his own Rule 11 gang. So I assume that Buster was not invited to any of the gangs. They're like, "I know you're white, Buster, but you can't."
No, he was Chicano. He was Chicano.
Oh, Chicano. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
that sounds kind of funny.
I recently, and recently was a month and a half ago, watched one of your videos, and it was about a mystery that I had heard of before, but the time I'd heard of it before was probably from like one of those like Fox specials where they leave it up in the air. Was it aliens or the devil?
It's one of the two.
50-50.
It's definitely one of them.
But it was, and I think it might be one that I have mocked on here before because of one of the facts in the case. So this is, you'll know right away. I know the pieces. This is the one where that lady survivalist led her group of student survivalists, and only one ended up surviving their retreat, and that person that was a young lady, and she reported the rest of the group like falling ill, going into seizures, clawing at their skin, their faces and stuff, and dying subsequently. And she couldn't understand or make what was happening, and so she just fled. And like 2 or 3 more days later, they found her, but then they didn't go back for the bodies for like a couple weeks or something like that. And by then, the evidence was so, and no one's ever really figured out. But it's, could you help me out with like what
Absolutely.
actually?
Yeah. So that's the Khamar Daban Pass. That's the region where it happened. It happened in I think it was the 80s, if I remember correctly, 80s, 90s, on the border of Russia and Kazakhstan in a region known as like the Khamar Daban mountain region. I gave most of the details in the video, but the short run through is that this lady was known for taking these groups of hikers on these like week-long hiking trips up into the mountains around Kazakhstan, which are pretty considerable mountains. You've got to be like a decent survivalist to begin with to get up there. And this specific group that she went with was a group of her students, so to speak, who she'd been doing it with for a couple of years. So they were like very experienced. And this pass that they were going on wasn't particularly hard by any means. It was comparatively easy. They had taken all the food that they needed for the amount of time given. There was other groups who were hiking the mountain at the same time that they had planned to have rally points where they would meet up and then continue. And then one day, I believe it was about 5 days into the trip, the other group she was supposed to meet with did not see her at one of these rally points, or her group. And it had rained the day before. So there's a good idea for what the region's like. It had rained the day before, so they just figured, oh, well, they probably just got slowed down because of the rain. And like, we'll see them whenever we get there. But sure enough, they get to the bottom of the mountain and that group isn't there. So eventually they launch an investigation. People start looking. And then about 3 days later, one of the students who was in that group shows up at a local city. And she goes to the police and tells them a whole story. The exact details of what she said isn't known. And then 2 weeks after that, and that's like one of the real suspicious details of the case, they didn't launch an investigation for 2 weeks. Weather was pretty clear at the time. 2 weeks later, they go look for them up on top of the mountain. And then there's video footage of the entire search for them and their eventual finding of the body. And then I believe it was 6 people. The survivor made 7. 6 people, all within a couple hundred feet of each other, are just lying dead in a clearing on top of the mountain. They're like, a couple of them are lying next to each other. One of them's like more towards the woods as if they're running away. 2 more together at the front of the woods. And it starts to paint a really weird picture. The initial idea at the time was that the survivor had murdered the others, because logically, if 6 people die, only 1 comes back, that would be the solution. However, there was no evidence on the bodies that there was any kind of fight or any kind of strangulation marks or whatever. But then even more suspiciously, after doing a full autopsy, there was no evidence of anything that happened to these bodies. They just kind of dropped over. There wasn't signs that you would see in hypothermia, like late stage, what is it? Like the lung fluid starts to contract or recede or whatever. And the skin of the bodies were too decomposed at this point to see if they were frozen up or anything. So it remained a total mystery of what had happened for about 20 years. Eventually, a reporter, actually it's like more like 30 years, it's like 28. A reporter eventually tracked down the one survivor and asked for testimony, because what had happened is she gave the police a testimony and then never mentioned it to anyone else. So she finally sat down with the reporter after 30 years and gave her side of the story and said that what had happened is they were just walking down the mountain. Everything was normal. It had rained the day before, although they were okay. They had ate breakfast. And then one of them starts screaming and coughing up blood. And then it was the teacher, runs over to help him out. She kneels down next to him and immediately starts coughing up blood too. She looks up at the group and blood is running out of her eyes, and she's telling them to get away. So, of course, the 5 remaining begin to freak out and run. And as they're running, one of the guys drop. Exact same thing happens to him. One of the girls, I think it was maybe his girlfriend or something, comes back to help. Same thing happens
later.
to her.
Carry on.
Yeah, it's like such a weird, bizarre story.
Yeah.
Eventually, the rest of them run, and the only one who keeps running and does not succumb to whatever's happening is the one girl who ended up being a survivor. She had enough temporary shelter on her back. She was able to set up camp for the night, although all of the food was with the people who had died. So the next day, she did the math and was like, I can't walk for 4 days without food or water. I'm going to have to go back to the body. So the next morning, she gets up, she goes back to the bodies, and they're all still laying there. They're in the exact same position that they had dropped down at. So she took her food and managed to make the hike. The 4 days, went to the police station. And the reason she said that she had never told that story is because she assumed no one would believe her and would think that she's covering up for some reason. Because, you know, if one girl survives a hiking trip and then is like, oh no, they all started bleeding from the face, that's going to cause some suspicion, which is the reason she told
when
them.
they found the bodies, and you were saying they didn't see anything about them like having, you know, died in a curious condition. What about all the vomiting and the blood and the
so it had been 2 weeks outside, so like the top layer of skin was just like darkened, sunken in across the face. All the blood at that point had either, whenever someone dies outside in the woods, there's a lot of bloating and like pustules and other gross stuff.
Not to mention the crows had picked these people's eyeballs out, and like the foxes ate their lips off. Like God knows what was left of them.
Yeah, it probably looks pretty bad.
You can't see like the full body on the video, but he comes up to someone who's laying face down, and you can see his hands, and they're just like black and emaciated. So they're in a pretty rough condition. They weren't able to tell anything like if they were
like one of those Everest bodies you see.
Yeah.
Where it's like they look like a really old piece of dog shit.
So I think one of your explanations, and probably the one that you think is the best, is what I agree with, and it makes a lot of sense to me. But before we I feel like it's almost a spoiler. Let's see what Woody and Taylor, do you guys have any theories about like what could have gone wrong here?
So she didn't murder them.
You know where this happened, the time
that was
of
one
year,
of the theories.
And you know the roughly the.
I like this game, Kyle. This is good. This is
the murder thing. The murder thing doesn't make sense because you said it was a woman who survived, and it was a group of people who would have like fought back if someone was just like sort of willy-nilly murdering.
Yeah, the survivor was like.
What about poison? Like, could you poison? Are there any berries that cause symptoms? What they experienced, or any food like that in the region?
Go ahead.
Well, they're all survivalists, right? Like they know the poison.
They could be bad ones.
From the good.
I painted something today. It's terrible.
But these are.
Taylor, I don't like the way you're doing it. You need to lay out your
let me lay this out. So Wendigoon gave you like the fast forward version, but these are the best. This lady, like I think I've made fun of her before in the past. Like some lady led a bunch of kids up into the wilderness, and then they all ran out of their tents naked at night and froze to death. Like I think that's what I had heard. But no, like she was a legit like fucking Sarah Connor style survivalist lady who knew her shit and knew how many calories each person would need to be eating each day down to 100 calories. And like she was an expert.
Here's my theory.
Okay.
She looked at her food supplies, determined that there wasn't enough for everyone to live, found some way to kill the people around her so that she could, and made it out.
Okay. So murder is
the way I'm going on this.
Okay.
All right.
Did she report that they were like short on food during their expedition? I guess if you murdered someone for food, you wouldn't.
They could have made it out. They could have made it out without food as long as they had water, right? Because like they're survivalists.
4 days. Yeah.
To continue giving the facts, whenever they found the bodies, most of them had their food supplies still on them that hadn't been ate through.
Okay,
indicating that they didn't starve. So.
Oh, I'm gonna change my answer. There was a romance thing. She didn't like. There was some sort of interpersonal thing
going on.
7-way,
and she wanted to be she wanted a good old fashioned traditional 4-way.
Wait, God intended.
Like this guy,
Four men,
that
just
guy, this guy like a girl, but she wanted to be liked instead. So she murdered like 3 or 4 of them, so they wouldn't know she was targeting that girl in particular.
Or maybe
but it all happened so quickly, apparently, because they're all in that little area.
Well, if I thought it was that, I would probably imagine a scenario where she killed one girl, but then she got caught, and like maybe they were like, you killed Amber, we're telling on you when we get back, and then she poisons everybody that night. Like
just became a brawl. Oh, you're saying she killed them after one murder? I see what.
Yeah. Because what are they gonna do? Arrest her? They're 4 days out. They're like, I can't believe that's what would happen. They'd be like, I can't believe you killed Amber. And maybe they got into a fight.
You don't tie him up or something. If someone murders someone on a camping trip, you don't go, "Hey, strike one, Buster." That's fucking absurd. No, you would tie them up and leave them. If anything, like
if it was a cute girl and there were other girls there to be like, Mark, you're not going to tie up Becky, are you? Her hands are turning blue. She said she can't breathe. What do you mean she can't breathe? Her hands are tied. She can't breathe.
I don't imagine.
You cut those ropes just to avoid the screaming.
This is funny because
no, that's how it happened. And then one guy got so tired of it, he tied them all up. And then he
just left them.
Just a random woodsman was like,
all 6 of them were tied up in one circle. Crazy how bears do that randomly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm trying it. There must be an answer to this that you guys know. I don't want you. I keep going back to poison. I don't understand what can make everyone do the same thing.
Yeah, according to my theory, the one that like I subscribe to, you're not far off with the poison.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
What do they suspect?
Spill the beans, Wendigoon.
I'll spill the beans. All right. So this is kind of like a bit of a cheat because you didn't know this information going in. However, this region of the Khamar Daban region, which is again on the border,
it's full of ghosts.
Very haunted.
Notoriously full of ghosts.
The ghost.
It's the home of the Ghoul King.
Oh yeah, it's a bad area where we got bad with ghosts. Lousy with ghosts. Yeah.
Right with
ghosts.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's ghost season up there. You jest, but this is how most of the theories I read about. This is where they come from.
Fun. I like it.
They are. Anyway, so that region that's on the Russian border was used during the Cold War as a weapons testing facility. That is an openly documented fact that they would use the mountains to test mortar fire or artillery barrages, and most importantly for this story, gas attacks. There are specific strains of nerve gas that were tested in the region at that time that can last in the air for, I think some of them are up to like a year and a half. Like once they're detonated, they just have to disperse and then hopefully no one breathes it in. And a lot of them were detonated like in these completely obscure like canyons and mountains for that reason. Most importantly to this story, most of them are pliable to water. So if you were to physically flush a region or wash it, it would cause the gas to not be destroyed, but to move somewhere else. So the theory that a lot of people subscribe to, and the one that makes the most sense to me, is that they're hiking down the mountainside, and then it had rained the day before, which again matters for this story. So it rains, and this rain causes a washout of a mountain, a canyon, a valley, or something, and causes the gas to move along the mountainside. This group of hikers are then walking, and it's also important for this story. This was like in the final years of the Cold War, whenever stuff like nerve gas was being developed a lot. So it makes sense that if they did test it, it would still exist around there. So they're walking down the mountainside, and then all it takes, I forget what the name of the one I showed in the video was that was tested in that region, but it is so effective that like half of one of Kyle's vape hits would kill you instantly. It just takes a very minute amount. So as it's flooding through the region, one of them just breathes in a little bit, and that would immediately cause the lining of their lungs to begin to fall apart. It would cause the bleeding of the eyes and other soft tissues. Another detail I didn't mention, according to the survivor... Kyle's died. Yeah, see, like that, the nerve gas, there it goes. What I saw that scratch in your eyes. What I didn't mention is one of the girls who was affected, according to the survivor, she started bashing her head onto a rock and like scratching at her throat, indicating that it was painful or she could feel something in there. So that would explain what Kyle's about.
What about the rock? Because of the pain?
Oh, well, she would have been feeling like the inside of her eyes and like nasal cavity bleeding and flaring out. And according to this girl, she just started hitting her head against a rock as she was dying.
That is so fucked up.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. That would also explain why one of them got affected, and then the person who came to stand in the same spot they were also got infected. There's also the very important mention from the survivor that it was foggy on the mountain that day, which could have not entirely been fog. So yeah, the theory that a lot of people go with, and I'm not the only harebrained one, this is kind of like the consensus online, so to speak.
No, I'm in, man.
That they were victims of old Soviet weapon testing. So
yeah, that makes when you said that in your video, I was like, yes, that checks too many boxes with it's in the right region, the right time frame, and the right effects. And I don't know anything. I'm sure there's some poisons that would cause that, but none that should be there other than the ones that were being tested there in the region. Now, whether it was a cloud of it that like moved in a special, unique way, that I'm not so sure. I could easily see one of them found the shell and had it in his bag. And then maybe the cops found it and were like, oh, call the military. And the military was like, you never saw this. Like something like that could have happened. But
that's
because the cloud seems like funky to me.
That's also part of the reason. So her original police statement was never published. She said later that's the story she told the police, and they kept it confidential for some reason. And that's also why people think the police didn't investigate for 2 weeks. Because the police are like, oh, well, that's the old weapons testing. We want to make sure that stuff clears out of the area before we go up there and go looking.
Because the military is like, hey, police, give us 2 weeks. And then trust me, you can walk on as much grass and turn over as many leaves as you like.
During the Cold War, anything like that would have been suppressed.